the Concordant version of the Old Testament, copyright 2021 by the Concordant Publishing Concern. The Book of Isaiah, chapter 1. The vision of Isaiah son of Amoz, which he perceived concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. Hear, heavens, and give ear, earth, for Yahweh himself speaks. Sons have I magnified and exalted, yet they have transgressed against me. The plowing ox knows his owner, and the donkey the crib of his possessors. Yet Israel, it does not know me, and my people, they do not consider me. Woe, nation of sin, people heavy with depravity, seed of evildoers, sons who are corrupters. They forsake Yahweh. They spurn the Holy One of Israel. They are alienated, going backward. On what shall you be smitten further, since you are adding more stubbornness? All of the head is ill, and all of the heart is sick. From the sole of the foot unto the head, there is no soundness in it, injury and welt and smiting raw. They are not pressed out, nor bound up, nor made tender with oil. Your land is a desolation, your cities burned with fire. Your ground in front of you aliens are devouring it. Ye desolation like the overturning by aliens. The daughter of Zion is left like a booth in a vineyard, like a hut in a cucumber patch, like a city besieged. Unless Yahweh of hosts himself had left for us a few survivors, as Sodom would we become, and to Gomorrah would we be likened. Hear the word of Yahweh, captains of Sodom. Give ear to the law of our Elohim, people of Gomorrah. Why to me your many sacrifices? Yahweh is saying, I am surfeited with the scent offerings of rams and the fat of fatlings, and the blood of young bulls and he-lambs and he-goats I do not desire. In that you are coming to appear before me, who sought this from your hand, to tramp my courts. Do not continue to bring a futile approach present. Incense, it is an abhorrence to me. New moon and Sabbath, proclaiming of a meeting I cannot bear a fast and a day of restraint. Your new moons and your appointed seasons my soul hates. They have become an encumbrance to me. I am tired of bearing them. And when you spread out your palms to me, I shall obscure my eyes from you. Even though you multiply prayers, I will not hearken. Your hands, they are full of blood, your fingers with lawlessness. Wash, purge yourselves. Take away the evil of your actions from in front of my eyes. Desist from doing evil. Learn to do good. Inquire for right judgment. Make happy the wronged. Seek right judgment for the orphan. Contend for the widow. Come now and let us have it corrected, Yahweh is saying. If your sins become like scarlet, as snow shall they be white. If they are red as crimson, as wool shall they become. If you are willing and hearken, the good of the land shall you eat. Yet if you are refusing and rebel, by the sword shall you be devoured, for the mouth of Yahweh it has spoken. How has she become a prostitute, a town that was faithful? Full of right judgment was Zion. Righteousness, it was lodging in her, yet now murderers. Your silver, it has become dross. Your strong wine is adulterated with water. Your chiefs are stubborn and partners of thieves. Everyone is loving a bribe and is pursuing payments. They are not seeking right judgment for the orphan, and the cause of the widow is not coming before them. Therefore, averring is the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the sturdy one of Israel. Woe, I shall be comforted over my foes, and I shall certainly be avenged on my enemies. I shall certainly restore my hand on you, so that I may refine your dross in a crucible. I shall certainly take away all your tin alloy. I shall certainly restore your judges, as at the first, and your counselors as at the start. Afterward it shall be proclaimed concerning you, city of righteousness, faithful town. Zion with right judgment shall she be ransomed, and her restored ones with righteousness. Yet there shall be a breaking of transgressors and sinners together, and those forsaking Yahweh, they shall be finished. For they shall be ashamed because of the oaks which you have coveted, and you shall be abashed because of the gardens which you have chosen. For you shall become like a terebinth decayed in its leaf, and like a garden for which there is no water. And the safeguarded one will become tinder, and his contrivance a spark. They will blaze up, the two of them together, and there will be no one to quench it. Chapter 2. The word which came from Yahweh to Isaiah son of Amoz, concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it will come to pass in the latter days, The mount of the house of Yahweh shall be established on the summit of the mountains, and it shall be lifted up above the hills, and all the nations will stream unto it. Many peoples will come and say, Come, and let us ascend to the mount of Yahweh, to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and he shall direct us out of his ways, so that we may indeed walk in his paths. For from Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. He will judge between the nations and arbitrate for the many peoples. They will pound their swords into mattocks, and their spears into pruners. Nation shall not lift sword against nation, nor shall they learn war any more. House of Jacob, come, and let us walk in the light of Yahweh. For you have abandoned your people, the house of Jacob, for they are full of divinations from the east, and of consulting clouds like the Philistines. And with children of foreigners they slap hands. Their land is full of silver and gold, and there is no end to their treasures. Their land is full of horses, and there is no end to their chariots. Their land is full of forbidden idols. They bow down to the work of their hands, to that which they have made with their fingers, so that the human is bowed down, and the man is abased. O do not lift them up. Enter into the rock, and bury yourself in the soil, from the face of the awe-inspiring Yahweh, and from the effulgence of his augustness, when he rises to terrify the earth. The eyes of the haughtiness of humanity will be brought low, and the highness of men will be bowed down, and Yahweh by himself alone will be impregnable in that day. For a day has Yahweh of hosts against everyone proud and high, and against everyone uplifted, so that he will be abased, against all the cedars of Lebanon, high and uplifted, and against all the oaks of Bashan, against all the high mountains, and against all the uplifted hills, against every lofty tower, and against every fortressed wall, against all the ships of Tarshish, and against all the coveted barks. The haughtiness of humanity will be bowed down, and the highness of men will be abased, and Yahweh by himself alone will be impregnable in that day. As for the forbidden idols, they shall completely pass by. People will enter into caves of the rocks and into tunnels of the soil, from the face of the awe-inspiring Yahweh, and from the effulgence of his augustness, when he rises to terrify the earth. In that day the human shall fling away his forbidden idols of silver, and his forbidden idols of gold which he made, each for himself to worship, to moles and to bats, in order to enter the fissures of the rocks and the overhangs of the crags, from the face of the awe-inspiring Yahweh, and from the effulgence of his augustness, when he rises to terrify the earth. Desist for yourselves from looking to humanity, in whose nostrils is breath, for in what way is he of account? Chapter 3. For behold, the Lord, Yahweh of hosts, is taking away from Jerusalem and from Judah both stay and prop, every stay of bread and every stay of water, master and man of war, judge and prophet, diviner and elder, chief of 50 and dignitary, counselor and shrewd artificer, and one who understands a snake charm. Then I will give them youths for their chiefs, and wanton practices. They shall rule over them, so that the people will be hard-pressed, one man by another man, and each man by his associate. They shall be audacious, the youth toward the elder, and the dishonored toward the illustrious. When a man should grasp onto his brother in his father's house, saying, You have raiment, you shall become our captain, and this stumbling heap will be under your hand. He shall lift up his voice in that day, saying, I shall not become one who binds up, and in my house there is no bread, and there is no raiment. You shall not make me captain over a people. For Jerusalem stumbles, and Judah it falls, because their tongue and their actions toward Yahweh serve to defy the eyes of his glory. The expression of their faces, it answers against them, and their sin they profess as Sodom did. They do not suppress it, woe to their soul, for they have dealt out evil to themselves. Say to the righteous one that he shall have good, for the fruit of their actions shall they eat. Woe to the wicked one, evil for him. For the dealing of his hands it shall return to him. My people, its taskmasters, are clean gleaners, and the taskmasters, they rule over it. My people, those making you happy, are leading astray, and the way of your paths they swallow up. Yahweh is stationed to contend, and is standing to adjudicate his people. Yahweh, he shall enter into judgment with the elders of his people and its chiefs. It is you consume the vineyard. Pillage from the humble is in your houses. What is it to you that you are crushing my people, and the faces of the humble you are grinding? Avering is my Lord, Yahweh of hosts. Then Yahweh said, because the daughters of Zion are haughty, and they are walking with outstretched throat and with wanton eyes, going about and swaggering as they walk, and on their feet they tinkle anklets. Hence Yahweh will abase the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion. And Yahweh, he shall make naked their embellished head. In that day, Yahweh shall take away their beauty, the anklets and the frontlets and the crescents, the drops and the arm chains and the fluttering veils, the tiaras and the stepping chains and the wide ribbons, and the scent vials and the charm whistles, the rings and the nose pendants, the fine outfits and the lounging robes, and the shawls and the handbags, and the lacy garments and the chemises, and the turbans and the capes, so that instead of an aromatic scent, there will be putrefaction, and instead of a girdle skirt, there shall be a girth, and instead of an elaborate coiffure, baldness, and instead of rich attire, a girding of sackcloth, indeed instead of loveliness, shame. Your men by the sword they shall fall, and your masters in battle. Your portals will complain and mourn, and you will be cleaned out. You will sit on the earth. Chapter 4. And 7 women will hold fast to one man in that day, saying, our own bread shall we eat, and with our own raiment shall we clothe ourselves. But let your name be called upon us. Gather up our reproach. In that day the shimmering of Yahweh shall come to be for stateliness and for glory, and the face of the land for augustness and for beauty, for the delivered of Israel and Judah. And it will come to be that the remnant in Zion and the rest in Jerusalem, it shall be said of them, holy all who are written for life in Jerusalem. When Yahweh has washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and has rinsed out the blood guilt of Jerusalem from within it, by a spirit of judgment, and by a spirit of consuming, then he will come, and there will be over every site of Mount Zion, and over all its common lands, a cloud by day, and smoke, and the brightness of a blazing fire by night. For over all the glory will be a canopy, and a booth it shall be for shade by day from scorching heat, and for refuge, and for concealment from storm and from rain. Chapter 5. Let me sing now for my friend, a song about my friend for his vineyard. A vineyard, it belonged to my friend on a horn-like, very fertile hill. He dug it up and threw out its stones, and he planted it with a yellow muscat vine. He built a tower in its midst and also hewed a windvat in it. Then he expected it to yield grapes, yet it is yielding stinking fruit. And now, dweller of Jerusalem and man of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more is there to do for my vineyard that I have not done for it? For what reason, when I expected it to yield grapes, does it yield stinking fruit? And now let me make known to you what I will be doing to my vineyard. I shall take away its hedge, and it will become consumed. I shall breach its stone dike, and it will become tramped down. I shall make it a waste, and it shall neither be pruned nor hoed, and it will come up buckthorn and spines. And I shall instruct the thick clouds to keep from raining rain on it. For the vineyard of Yahweh of hosts is the house of Israel, and each man of Judah his plant delectable. He was expecting right judgment, and behold, transgression, justice, and behold, a cry. Woe to those touching house to house. Field to field they bring near unto the limit of a place, and you are made to dwell by yourselves alone within the open country. For he was heard in my ears, Yahweh of hosts. Assuredly many houses shall become a desolation, great and good ones without a dweller. For 10 acres of vineyard they shall yield 1 bath, and a homer's seed it shall yield an ephah. Woe to those rising early in the morning, that they may pursue intoxicant, who are up late in the twilight until wine inflames them. There is harp and zither, tambourine and flute, and wine at their feasts. Yet at the deeds of Yahweh they do not look, and the work of his hands they do not see. Therefore my people are deported for lack of knowledge, and its abundance are men of famine, and its throng are glazed with thirst. Therefore the unseen widens its greedy soul, and gapes with its mouth without limitation. Her effulgence and her throng descend with her tumult and gladness into it. Thus the human is bowed down, and the man is abased, and the eyes of the haughty they are brought low. Yet Yahweh of hosts is elevated in judgment, and the holy El, he is hallowed in righteousness. The lambs graze as in their pen, and the kids they eat on the deserted places behind the full-fed. Woe to those who are drawing depravity with the cord lines of hypocrisy, and sin as with cart ropes, who are saying, let it hasten, let his work hurry, that we may see, and let it come near, let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel come, that we may know. Woe to those who are calling evil, good, evil, placing darkness for light, and light for darkness, placing bitter for sweet, and sweet for bitter. Woe to those wise in their own eyes and understanding in front of their own faces. Woe to masters at drinking wine, and valorous men at blending intoxicant, who are justifying the wicked one in consequence of a bribe. Yet the righteousness of the righteous one they are taking away from him. Therefore, as a tongue of fire devours stubble, and chaff, it collapses in a blaze. Their root it shall become as putrefaction, and their bud it shall ascend as dust. For they have rejected the law of Yahweh of hosts, and the word of the Holy One of Israel they have spurned. Therefore the anger of Yahweh burns hot against his people, and his hand stretches out upon it, and he smites it, and the mountains are disturbed, and its carcasses become like offal within the streets. In all this his anger does not reverse, and his hand is outstretched still. And he lifts up a banner for a nation from afar. He whistles for it from the outmost part of the earth. And behold, quickly, fleetly it is coming. There is none faint, and there is no one who stumbles in it. Not one is slumbering, and not one is sleeping. Nor is the belt of his loins unloosed, nor is the lacing of his sandals pulled away, whose arrows are whetted, and all his bows are positioned. The hoofs of his horses, they are reckoned to be like rock, and his rolling wheels like a sweeping whirlwind. His roaring is like a parent lion. Indeed, he roars like sheltered lions. He shall growl and hold the prey and deliver it away, and there will be no rescuer. He shall growl over it in that day like the growling of the sea, when one looks to the land, and behold, darkness, distress, and the light it is kept back in its spray. Chapter 6. In the year of King Uzziah's death, I saw Yahweh sitting on a throne, high and lifted up, and his skirts were filling the temple. Seraphim were standing above him, with 6 wings to each one. With 2 each covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And this one called to that one and said, Holy, 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 Yahweh of hosts, the fullness of the whole earth manifests his glory. And the cubits of the threshold swayed at the sound of the calling, and the house, it was filling with smoke. So I said, Woe to me, for I am stilled, for a man of unclean lips am I, and in the midst of people of unclean lips am I dwelling? For the King, Yahweh of hosts, my eyes have seen. Then one of the seraphim flew to me, and in his hand was a glowing coal he had taken with tongs off the altar. He touched it to my mouth and said, Behold, this has touched your lips, and your depravity is withdrawn, and a propitiatory shelter is made for your sin. Then I heard the voice of Yahweh saying, Whom shall I send? And who shall go to this nation? So I answered, Behold me, send me. Then he said, Go, and you will say to this people, Hear, yea, hear, yet do not understand. And see, yea, see, yet do not know. Stouten the heart of this people, and make its ears heavy, and make its eyes squint, lest it may see with its eyes, and with its ears it may hear, and with its heart it may understand, and it gets healing again for itself. Then I said, How long, O Yahweh? And he answered, Until the cities should be decimated without a dweller, and the houses without a human, and the ground, it is decimated in desolation. Yahweh will remove the human afar, and the forsaken places will be many within the land. Though a tenth still remains in it, yet again it will become consumed, like a terebinth and like an oak, which when flung down as a monument, in it the holy seed will be its monument. Chapter 7. It came to be in the days of Ahaz, son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, king of Judah, that Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, went up to Jerusalem to fight against it. Yet they were not able to fight against it. And it was told to the house of David, saying, Syria has been guided to Ephraim, and his heart swayed, and the heart of his people, as the trees of the wildwood sway because of the wind. Then Yahweh said to Isaiah, Go forth now to meet Ahaz, you and Shear-Jashub your son, to the end of the trench of the uppermost reservoir, to the highway of the field of the launderer. And you will say to him, Keep calm and be quiet. Do not fear, and let not your heart be timid because of these two tails of smoking wooden pokers, that are by the hot anger of Rezin in Syria, and Remaliah's son, because Syria counsels evil against you, Ephraim and Remaliah's son, saying, Let us go up into Judah and terrorize it, and let us rend it for ourselves. We shall raise a king to reign in its midst, the son of Tabeel. Thus says my Lord Yahweh, This shall not be confirmed, and it shall not come to pass. For the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin. And in another 65 years Ephraim shall be undone as a people. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. If you are not believing, then you are not faithful. Then Yahweh spoke again to Ahaz, saying, Ask for yourself a sign from Yahweh your Elohim. Deepen it toward the unseen, or elevate it toward that above. Yet Ahaz said, I shall not ask, nor shall I probe Yahweh. Then he said, Hear now, house of David. Is it too little a thing for you to tire men, that you should also tire my Elohim? Therefore Yahweh himself shall give a sign to you. Behold, the damsel shall be pregnant and bear a son, and you will call his name Emmanuel. Clotted cream and honey shall he eat before he knows to reject evil and to choose good. For ere the lad shall know to reject evil and to choose good, forsaken shall be the ground before whose two kings you are irritated. Yahweh shall bring upon you and upon your people and upon your father's house days such as have not come since the day Ephraim withdrew from Judah, the king of Assyria. It will come to be in that day, Yahweh shall whistle for the gadfly which is at the end of the waterways of Egypt, and for the bee which is in the land of Assyria. They will come and settle, all of them, in the steep wadis and in the rifts of crags, and in all the thorn trees and in all the thorn hedges. In that day Yahweh shall shave with a razor that is hired, with those across the stream, with the king of Assyria. The head and the hair of the feet, and even the beard shall it sweep off. It will come to be in that day that a man shall keep alive a heifer of the herd and 2 ewes of the flock. And it will come to be that from a vast yield of milk he shall eat clotted cream. For everyone who is left within the land shall eat clotted cream and honey. And it will come to be in that day, it shall be that every place where there are 1,000 vines worth 1,000 silver pieces shall become a place for buckthorn and for spines. One shall come there with arrows and with bow, for the entire land shall become buckthorn and spines. And all the mountains which should be hoed with a hoe, you shall not enter there for fear of buckthorn and spines. And it will become a place for sending forth of kine and for tramping down by flocklings. Chapter 8. Then Yahweh said to me, Take for yourself a large parchment roll, and write on it with a stylus of a mortal. To hasten, loot, hurry, plunder, and call to witness for me, faithful witnesses, Uriah the priest and Zechariah, son of Jeberechiah. Then I came near to the prophetess, and she became pregnant and bore a son. And Yahweh said to me, Call his name Maher-Shalal-Hashbaz, for ere the lad shall know to call. Abi and Ami, the estate of Damascus and the loot of Samaria shall be carried off before the king of Assyria. Then Yahweh yet again spoke to me, saying, Because this people has rejected the waters of Shiloh that flow so gently, and has given elation to Rezin and Remaliah's son. Now therefore, behold, Yahweh is bringing up over them the waters of the stream, staunch and abundant, the king of Assyria and all his glory. It will ascend over all its channels and go over all its banks. It will pass on into Judah, overflow, and pass along until it touches the neck. And there will be a stretching out of its wings, filling the width of your land, O Emmanuel. Know peoples and be dismayed, and give ear, all far places of the earth. Belt yourselves and be dismayed. Belt yourselves and be dismayed. Counsel with counsel, yet it shall be annulled. Speak a word, yet it shall not be confirmed. For with us is El, For thus Yahweh said to me, as with a steadfast hand, that he might discipline me from walking in the way of this people, saying, You shall not say holy to all that this people says is holy, and its fear you shall not fear nor be terrified. Yahweh of hosts, him shall you sanctify, and he shall be your fear, and he your terror. And if you are expectant toward him, he will be a sanctuary and not a stone of tripping or a rock of stumbling. Yet for the two houses of Israel, a snare and a trap for the dweller of Jerusalem. Many will stumble among them, and they will fall and be broken, and they will be trapped and seized. Tie up the testimony and seal the law among my disciples. I also will tarry for Yahweh, who conceals his face from the house of Jacob, and I will be expectant toward him. Behold, I and the boys whom Yahweh has given to me are for signs and for miracles in the house of Israel from Yahweh, of hosts who tabernacles in Mount Zion. And when they say to you, Inquire of the mediums and the wizards who chirp and who coo, ask, Should not a people inquire of its Elohim? What do they inquire of the dead about the living? To the law and to the testimony. If they are not speaking according to this word, for which there is no bribe, then each one will pass through it, hard-pressed and famished. And it will come to be when he is famishing, he will be wrathful, and he will maledict his king and his Elohim. Then he will face upward to the heavens above, and look to the earth beneath, and behold distress and darkness, faintness of constraint and expulsion into gloom. Chapter 9. But no faintness will be hers who was in constraint, as in the first era when he slighted the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. Yet in the latter era he will glorify the way of the sea, across the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. The people walking in darkness, they will see a great light. Dwellers in a land of blackest shadow, light it will be bright over them. You will increase the exultation. You will magnify the rejoicing. They will rejoice before you as the rejoicing in the harvest, just as they exult when they apportion loot. For the yoke of their burden, the slider bar of their shoulder, the club of their taskmaster, all these Yahweh will shatter apart as in the day of Midian. For every boot booted on in the quaking and raiment rolled in blood will come to be for burning, fuel for fire. For a boy he is born to us, a son he is given to us, and the chieftainship shall come to be on his shoulder, and one shall call his name Marvelous. Counsel to the master shall he bring, unto the chief well-being. To the increase of the chieftainship and to the well-being there will be no end. On the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to brace it with right judgment and with justice. Henceforth and in the future eon, the zeal of Yahweh of hosts, it shall achieve this. A word Yahweh sent against Jacob, and it fell in Israel. And the people all of it knew, Ephraim and the dweller of Samaria, in pride and insolence of heart, saying, The bricks, they have fallen, yet we shall rebuild with trimmed stone. The mulberry trees, they have been hacked down, yet we shall change to cedars. But Yahweh shall make the foes of Rezin impregnable over him, and he shall screen his enemies, Syria from the east and the Philistines from behind. And they shall devour Israel with a whole mouth. And in all this his anger does not reverse, and his hand is outstretched still. Yet the people they do not return unto the one who smote it, and to Yahweh of hosts they do not inquire. So Yahweh shall cut off from Israel head and tail, frond and rush in one day. The elder and the dignitary, he is the head, and the prophet who directs falsehood, he is the tail. Those making this people happy become those leading astray, and its people being made happy are those being swallowed up. Therefore Yahweh shall not spare its choice youth, and he shall not have compassion on its orphans and its widows, for all of it is polluted in doing evil, and every mouth speaks decadence. In all this his anger does not reverse, and his hand is outstretched still. For wickedness consumes like a fire. It shall devour buckthorn and spines and ravage in the thickets of the wildwood, and they shall mount up with swelling smoke. By the rage of Yahweh of hosts the land is incinerated, and the people shall be as fuel for the fire. A man shall not spare his brother, and he shall sever on the right yet be famished, and shall eat on the left, yet they will not be satisfied. Each shall eat the flesh of his own seed, Manasseh on Ephraim, and Ephraim on Manasseh, and they together on Judah. And in all this his anger does not reverse, and his hand is outstretched still. Chapter 10. Woe to the statute makers of lawless statutes, who write iniquitous writings, to turn the poor aside from adjudication, and to pillage right judgment from the humble of my people, that widows may become their loot, and they may plunder orphans. Yet what shall you do in the day of visitation, and in the ruination which shall come from afar? To whom shall you flee for help, and whither shall you entrust your glory, unless one crouches under a prisoner, or they should fall beneath those killed? And in all this his anger does not reverse, and his hand is outstretched still. Woe, Assyria, club of my anger, and a rod is he in the day of my indignation. Against a polluted nation shall I send him, and against a people of my rage shall I commission him, to loot and to plunder, and to make it a tramping ground like the clay of the streets. Yet he is not planning so, and his heart is not devising so, for it is in his heart to exterminate, and to cut off nations, not a few. For he is saying, Are not my chiefs altogether kings? Is not Calno like Carchemish? Or is not Hamath like Arpad? Or is not Samaria like Damascus? Just as my hand came upon the kingdoms of forbidden idols, whose carvings are greater than Jerusalem's and Samaria's, shall I not, just as I did to Samaria and to her forbidden idols, also do to Jerusalem and to her fetishes? So it will be that Yahweh shall carry through all his work against Mount Zion and Jerusalem. Then I shall visit evil on the fruit of the insolent heart of the king of Assyria, and on the vaunting haughtiness of his eyes. For he has said, By the vigor of my hand I did it, and by my wisdom, for I have understanding. So I am taking away the boundaries of peoples, and their equippings have I robbed. And I am bringing down those who sit like a sturdy one. My hand is finding the estate of the peoples, as in a nest, and as one gathers forsaken eggs. So do I gather the entire earth, and there is no wing ruffling, or mouth opening wide in chirping. Shall the axe vaunt itself over the one hewing with it? Should the mace magnify itself over the one swinging it? As if a club should swing the one raising it up, as if a rod should raise him up who is not wood. Therefore the Lord Yahweh of hosts shall send leanness upon his stout warriors, and instead of his glory shall glow a glowing like the glowing of fire. And the light of Israel will become a fire, and his Holy One a blaze, and it will consume and devour his spines and his buckthorn in one day. Also the glory of his wildwood and his cropland. Both soul and flesh shall it consume. And he who is fleeing will be like one fleeing from a blaze. And the remainder of the trees of his wildwood, they shall become so few in number that a youth can list them. And it will come to be in that day, not again any longer shall the remnant of Israel or the delivered of the house of Jacob lean on his smiter. Yet he will lean on Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel in truth. A remnant it shall return, a remnant of Jacob to the masterful El. Even if the people of Israel should become as the sand of the sea, a remnant it shall be saved in it. Failure was decided, but justice will be overflowing. For a conclusive and decisive accounting, my Lord Yahweh of hosts shall make within the entire land. Therefore thus says my Lord, Yahweh of hosts, O do not fear my people, dwellers of Zion, because of Assyria, who smites you with a club and lifts over you his rod in the manner of Egypt. For it is only a little bit when indignation will be concluded, and my anger over their strategy. Yahweh of hosts will brandish a whip over him like the smiting of Midian at the rock of Oreb, or when his rod was upon the sea, and he will lift it up in the manner of Egypt. And it will come to be in that day, his burden shall withdraw from your back, and his yoke from your neck. The yoke will be broken apart because of stoutness. He comes upon Iath, he passes in Migron. At Michmash he is checking over his supplies. They pass into the passage, saying, Geba shall be our lodging for the night. Ramah trembles, Gibeah of Sol, it flees. Shrill your voice, daughter of Galim. Attend, Lash, respond to her, Anathoth. Madmannah bolts away. Dwellers of Gebim, they take to strong shelter. While it is still day, he stands in Nob. He is waving his hand at the mountain of the daughter of Zion, the hill of Jerusalem. Behold, the Lord Yahweh of hosts shall lop off the foliage with terror, and those high of stature shall be hacked down, and the haughty they shall be abased. He will fell the thickets of the wildwood with iron, and Lebanon shall fall before the noble one. Chapter 11. Then a twig will come forth from the set slip of Jesse, and a scion, it shall be fruitful from his roots. And the Spirit of Yahweh will rest upon him, a spirit of wisdom and understanding, a spirit of counsel and mastery, a spirit of knowledge and fear of Yahweh. His scent will be in the fear of Yahweh, and not by the sight of his eyes shall he judge, nor by the hearing of his ears shall he arbitrate. He will judge the poor with righteousness and arbitrate for the humble of the land with equity. He will smite the earth with the club of his mouth, and with the spirit of his lips shall he put the wicked to death. Righteousness will be the belt of his waist, and faithfulness the belt of his loins. Then the wolf will sojourn with the lamb, and the leopard it shall recline with the kid, and the calf and the sheltered lion, they shall graze together, and a small lad shall lead among them. Then the young cow and the bear, they shall graze together, and together they shall recline their young. And the lion, it shall eat crushed straw like the ox. Then the suckling will revel over the hole of a cobra, and on the light shaft of a viper the weaned child will obtrude his hand. They shall not do evil, nor shall they bring ruin in all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of Yahweh, as waters are covering the sea. And there will come to be in that day the root of Jesse, who shall stand as a banner of the peoples. Of him the nations shall inquire, and his rest will come to be glorious. And it will come to be in that day, Yahweh shall again lift up his hand, to be zealous for the remnant of his people, which shall remain from Assyria and from Egypt, from Pathros and from Cush, from Elam and from Shinar, from Hamath and from the coastlands of the sea. He will lift up a banner for the nations and gather the expelled of Israel, and he shall convene the scattered of Judah from the four wings of the earth. Then the jealousy of Ephraim will go away, and the distressings of Judah, they shall be cut off. Ephraim, he shall not be jealous of Judah, and Judah, he shall not distress Ephraim. And they will fly on the shoulder of the Philistines westward. Together they shall plunder the sons of the east. On Edom and Moab will be the first sending of their hand. Yet the sons of Ammon will be the first to hearken to them. Then Yahweh will drain the tongue of the sea of Egypt, and wave his hand over the stream with the vehemence of his wind. And he will smite it into 7 wadis, and one will tread it in sandals. And it will become a highway for the remnant of his people, which shall remain from Assyria, just as it was for Israel in the day it came up from the land of Egypt. Chapter 12. And you will say in that day, I am acclaiming you, O Yahweh. Indeed you have been angry with me. May your anger reverse that you may comfort me. Behold, El is my salvation. I shall trust in him and not be afraid. For my strength and my melody is Yahweh, and he became mine for salvation. Then you will draw forth water with elation from the springs of salvation. And you will say in that day, acclaim Yahweh, call on his name, make known his actions among the peoples. Mention that his name is impregnable. Make melody to Yahweh, for he has done august things, making this known in the entire earth. Make a noise and be jubilant, dweller of Zion, for great among you is the Holy One of Israel. Chapter 13. Load of Babylon which Isaiah son of Amoz perceived. On a mountain ridge lift up a banner. Raise high the voice to them. Wave a hand, that they may enter the portals of the princely ones. I myself have instructed my hallowed ones. Moreover, I have called my masters of war to execute my anger, those who are joyous in my augustness. A sound of a throng on the mountains, like many people. A sound of tumult of kingdoms, of nations being gathered. Yahweh of hosts, he is mustering a host for battle. They are coming from a far-off land, from the end of the heavens, Yahweh and the instruments of his indignation, to harm the entire earth. Howl, for near is the day of Yahweh. As devastation from him who suffices shall it come. Therefore all hands they shall fall slack, and every mortal's heart it shall melt, and they will be filled with panic. Throes and cramps, they shall take hold of them. They shall travail like a woman giving birth. A man shall be stunned at his associate. Their faces are faces of blazing fire. Behold, the day of Yahweh it comes, cruel with rage and hot anger, to make the entire earth a desolation, and he shall exterminate its sinners from it. For the stars of the heavens and their constellations, they shall not irradiate their light. The sun will be darkened in its coming forth, and the moon shall not brighten with its light. I will visit evil on all the habitants, and their depravity on the wicked. I will eradicate the pomp of the arrogant, and the pride of the terrifiers shall I abase. I shall make the remaining mortal rarer than glittering gold, and a human than certified gold of Ophir. Therefore I shall disturb the heavens, and the earth shall quake from its place in the furious rage of Yahweh of hosts, and in the day of his hot anger. And those remaining will come to be like a gazelle hurtling away, and like a flock when there is no one to get it together. Each one he shall turn around to his people, and each he shall flee to his own land. Everyone found, he shall be stabbed, and everyone gathered up, he shall fall by the sword. Their babes, they shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be rifled, and their wives they shall be ravished. Behold me rousing against them the Medes who are not accounting silver, and gold they are not delighting in it. Yet their bows shall dash the youths to pieces, and on the fruit of the belly they shall not have compassion, and over sons their eye shall not commiserate. And Babylon, stateliest of kingdoms, beauty of Chaldean pride, will become like Elohim's overturning of Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall not be indwelt permanently, nor tabernacled in for generation after generation. The Arab shall not tent there, nor shepherds recline their flock there. Yet desert beasts will recline there, and their houses will be full of owls. Ostriches will tabernacle there, and hairy goats, they shall dance there. Desert howlers will answer back in its citadels, and wild jackals in its palaces of rich delight. Her era is near to come, and her days they shall not be protracted further. Chapter 14. For Yahweh shall have compassion on Jacob, and will still choose in Israel, and he will give them rest on their own ground. Sojourners will join them as proselytes, and they will be adherents to the house of Jacob. And many peoples will take them and bring them to their ground and to their place. And the house of Israel will allot them among themselves on Yahweh's ground for manservants and for maidservants, so that they become captors of their captors and hold sway over their taskmasters. It will come to be in the day when Yahweh gives you rest from your grief and from your disturbance and from the hard service that was forced on you to serve. Then you will lift up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and you will say in that day, how the taskmaster has ceased, the place of our pining away has ceased. Yahweh has broken the rod of the wicked, the scepter of rulers, which smote peoples in rage, a smiting without withdrawal, holding sway over nations in anger, persecuting without keeping back. The entire earth is at rest. It is quiet. They burst forth into jubilant song. Even the firs they rejoice at you, the cedars of Lebanon. Since you have lain down, the cutter does not come up against us. The unseen beneath, it is disturbed for you to meet you at your coming. It rouses the Rephaim for you, all the he-goats of the earth. It raises from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All of them, they shall respond and say to you, you too have become ill like us. You have become comparable to us. Your pomp is brought down to the unseen, the clamor of your decadence. Under you the maggot shall birth, and the worm become your cover. How have you fallen from the heavens? Howl, son of the dawn. You have been hacked down to the earth, defeater over all nations. Yet you said in your heart, to the heavens shall I ascend. Above the stars of El shall I exalt my throne. And I shall sit on the mount of appointment, on the remote parts of the north. I shall ascend unto the high places of the thick clouds. I shall be like the Supreme. Nevertheless, to the unseen shall you be brought down, to the remote parts of the crypt. Those who see you, they shall peer at you. They shall examine you closely. Is this the man who was disturbing the earth, making the kingdoms quake? He made the habitants like a wilderness and demolished its cities. He would not open a homeward way for his prisoners. All the kings of the nations, all of them, they lie in state, each man in his own house. Yet you were flung from your tomb like an abhorrent abortion, like clothing of those who are killed, who are pierced through with a sword, who go down to the stones of the crypt like a trampled corpse. You shall not unite with them in the tomb, for you ruined my land. You killed my people. Let it not be proclaimed for the eon, this seed of evildoers. Prepare a slaughter for his sons because of the depravity of their fathers. May they by no means rise and take over the earth, so that they fill the face of the habitants with cities. I will rise against them. Evering is Yahweh of hosts, and I will cut off from Babylon name and remnant and progeny and posterity. Evering is Yahweh. I will make it desolate, a tenancy of the hedgehog in watery marshes, and I will mop it with the mop of extermination. Evering is Yahweh of hosts. Yahweh of hosts has sworn, saying, assuredly, just as I have meant, so will it come to be, and just as I have counseled, that shall be confirmed. To break Assyria in my land, and on my mountains I shall trample him. His yoke will withdraw from them, and his burden it shall withdraw from their back. This is the counsel that is counseled over the entire earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out over all the nations. For Yahweh of hosts he has counseled, and who shall annul it? And it is his hand that is stretched out, and who shall reverse it? Load of Philistia. In the year of the death of King Ahaz came this load. Do not rejoice, Philistia, all of you, because the club of your smiter is broken. For from the root of the serpent a viper shall come forth, and its fruit will be a flying, burning serpent. The firstborn of the poor will graze, and the needy they shall recline in serenity. Yet I will put your root to death with famine, and I shall kill your remnant. Howl, gate, cry out, city, be dissolved, Philistia, all of you. For a smoke comes from the north, and there is no solitary straggler in its appointed ranks. What shall they answer the messengers of this nation? That Yahweh, he has founded Zion, and in it the humble of his people shall find refuge. Chapter 15, Load of Moab. Indeed, in a night Ar is devastated, Moab it is stilled. Indeed, in a night Kir is devastated, Moab it is stilled. He ascends to the house, even Dibon to the high places, for lamentation. Over Nebo and over Medeba, Moab it is howling. On all its heads is baldness, and every beard is hacked off. In its streets they gird on sackcloth. On its housetops and in its squares, everyone is howling, descending with lamentation. Heshbon is crying out, and Elealeh. Their voice is heard as far as Jahaz. Therefore those of Moab outfitted for war, they are shouting, its soul it is smashed within it. My heart it is crying out for Moab, its fugitives as far as Zoar and Eglath-Shelishiyah. For at the ascent of Luhith, one is ascending on it with lamentation. For on the way of Horonaim, they are rousing up an outcry of brokenness. For the waters of Nimrim, they become desolations. For the grass dries up, the vegetation vanishes. No green thing remains. Therefore the surplus one has made, and their noted stores. They shall bear them over the wadi of the oleanders. For the outcry circles around the boundary of Moab, as far as Eglaim her howling, even to Beer Elim her howling. For the waters of Dibon are full of blood. Indeed I shall set on Dibon still more. For the delivered of Moab, a lion, and for the remnant, dread. Chapter 16. Send as a stallion to the land from the crag toward the wilderness, to the mount of the daughter of Zion, and it will come to be like a flyer bolting away, being cast out from the nest. So the daughters of Moab shall be at the fords of Arnon. Bring counsel, make mediation. Set your shadow like night in the midst of high noon. Conceal the outcasts. Do not expose one who bolted away. Let them sojourn among you, the outcast from Moab. Be a concealment for them from the face of the devastator. For the squeezer will reach his limit. The devastator will be finished. The one tramping down will come to end from the land. And a throne will be established in benignity. And a judge will sit on it in truth in the tent of David, seeking after right judgment and swift with justice. We hear of the pomp of Moab. Very proud is his pride and his pomp and his overbearing, his pretenses, which are not so. Therefore Moab shall howl for Moab. All of it shall howl. Over the raisin cakes of Kir-Hareseth shall you mumble. Yea, be despondent. For with the terraces of Heshbon, the vine of Sibmah wastes away. The headmen of the nations have beat down its yellow muscat vines, which touched as far as Jazer, which strayed into the wilderness. Its runners were spread abroad. They passed over to the sea. Therefore I shall lament with the lamentation of Jazer for the vine of Sibmah. I shall water you with my tears, Heshbon and Elealeh. For upon your summer fruit and upon your harvest, devastation has fallen. Rejoicing and exultation are swept up from the cropland. and in the vineyards no one is jubilant, no one is shouting. The treader is not treading wine in the winevats. I have caused the vintage shout to cease. Therefore my internal writhings keen like a harp for Moab, and my inmost being like a new lyre for Kir-Hareseth. And it will be, though being fearful, though Moab tires himself on the fain height, when he comes to his sanctuary to pray, he shall not be able. This is the word that Yahweh spoke to Moab hitherto. Yet now Yahweh speaks, saying, in 3 years, like the years of a hireling, the glory of Moab will be brought to dishonor with all the vast throng, and the remnant will be a little bit and not abundant. Chapter 17, Load of Damascus. Behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city. It becomes a fallen rubbish heap, its cities forsaken unto the future. They shall become a place for droves, and they will recline with no one making them tremble. The fortress will be eradicated from Ephraim, and kingship from Damascus, and the dignity of Syria shall perish. They shall become like the glory of the sons of Israel, averring as Yahweh of hosts. And it will come to be in that day that the glory of Jacob shall be impoverished, and the stoutness of his flesh it shall be made lean. And it will come to be like gathering the harvest, the raised grain, when one is reaping the ears of grain with his arm. It will come to be like one gleaning ears of grain in the vale of Rephaim, when some clean gleanings remain in it, like the after gleaning of an olive tree, when 2, 3 fixed fast berries are in the tip-top, 4, 5 in its fruitful, leafy boughs. Averring is Yahweh, Elohim of Israel. In that day the human shall give heed to his Maker, and his eyes they shall give regard to the Holy One of Israel. He shall not give heed to the altars, the work of his hands, and what his fingers have made he shall not regard, even the Asherah poles and the incense stands. In that day his stronghold cities shall become like the forsaken places of the Hivite and the Amorite, which they forsook because of the sons of Israel, and it will become desolation. For you have forgotten the Elohim of your salvation, and the rock, your stronghold, you have not remembered. Therefore you shall plant pleasant plants, and the prune slip of the alien, you shall sow it. In the day of your planting you shall get great growth, and in the morning of your sowing you shall find buds. But the harvest shall be an evanescence in a day of travail and mortal pain. Woe, the clamor of many peoples. Like the clamor of the seas are they clamoring, and the tumult of the folk. Like the tumult of abundant waters are they tumulting. The folk, like the tumult of many waters, are they tumulting. Yet he will rebuke him, and he will flee far off. He will be pursued like trash before the wind in the hills, like a tumbleweed before the sweeping whirlwind. At eventide behold morning. Ere morning he is no more. This is the portion of those who rob us, and the lot of those who plunder us. Chapter 18. Woe, land of the winged boat, which is across the streams of Cush, which is sending its agents by sea, in papyrus vessels over the surface of the waters. Go, fleet messengers, to a nation long-limbed and sleek-skinned, to a people being feared from its boundary and beyond, a nation at the confluences of waters and eroding, whose land the streams plunder. All dwellers of the habitants and tabernaclers of the earth. Like a banner lifted on the mountains, you shall see it, and like a trumpet blowing, you shall hear it. For thus says Yahweh to me, I shall be quiet and look in on my sight, like shimmering warmth over the light, like a dense haze of night mist in the day of harvest. For before the harvest, as the bud is finished, when the flower becomes an enlarging, unripe grape, then one cuts off the shoots with pruners, and takes away the vine branches that he lopped. They shall be forsaken together to the bird of prey of the mountains, and to the beast of the earth. And the bird of prey will summer on him, and every beast of the earth shall winter on him. In that era an indemnity shall be fetched to Yahweh of hosts from a people long-limbed and sleek-skinned, and from a people being feared from its boundary and beyond, a nation at the confluences of waters, and eroding, whose land the streams plunder, to the place of the name of Yahweh of hosts, Mount Zion. Chapter 19, Load of Egypt. Behold, Yahweh is riding on a fleet, thick cloud, and he comes to Egypt. The forbidden idols of Egypt sway before him, and the heart of Egypt, it is melted within it. I tangle Egypt with Egypt, and they will fight, each against his brother, and each against his associate, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. The spirit of Egypt will be made void within it, and I shall swallow up its counsel, and they will inquire of the forbidden idols and of the sorcerers, and of the mediums and of the wizards. I will hold Egypt in check in the hand of a harsh lord and a strong king. He shall rule over them. Averring is the Lord Yahweh of hosts. The waters from the sea will be absorbed, and the stream it shall become drained and be dry. The streams will evaporate. The waterways of Lower Egypt will be impoverished and become drained. Reed and weed, they will wither. Naked places will show on the waterway, at the mouth of the waterway. And everything sown along the waterway, it shall dry up. It will be whisked away and be no more. The fishermen will be plaintive, and all will mourn who fling fish hooks into the waterway. And those who spread a dragnet on the surface of the waters, they will waste away. Ashamed will be those who serve in carded flax and the weavers of pale cotton. Its settled ones will become crushed, all the workers for hire sorry of soul. Yea, the chiefs of Zoan are fools. The wise of Pharaoh's counselors give irrational counsel. How can you say to Pharaoh, I am a son of the wise, a son of former kings? Where are they indeed, your wise? Pray, let them tell you, and let them make known what Yahweh of hosts has counseled concerning Egypt. The chiefs of Zoan are foolish. The chiefs of Noph are lured away. They lead Egypt astray, the cornerstone of its tribes. Yahweh, he blends within it a depraved spirit, and they lead Egypt astray in all its doings, like a drunkard straying in his vomit. There shall not be for Egypt any work that head or tail, frond or rush can do. In that day Egypt shall become like the women, so that it will tremble and be afraid, in view of the waving hand of Yahweh of hosts, which he is waving over it. And the ground of Judah will become a cause for giddiness to Egypt. Anyone to whom one mentions it, he shall be afraid, in view of the counsel of Yahweh of hosts, which he counsels against it. In that day there shall be 5 cities in the land of Egypt, speaking the language of Canaan, and swearing fealty to Yahweh of hosts. City of demolishing of idols shall be said of one. In that day there shall be an altar to Yahweh in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a monument beside its boundary to Yahweh. And it will be for a sign for the eon, and for a testimony to Yahweh of hosts in the land of Egypt. When they cry to Yahweh in view of their oppressors, then he shall send to them a Savior, and he will descend, and he will rescue them. Then Yahweh will become known to Egypt, and Egypt will know Yahweh in that day. They will serve with sacrifice and approach present, and they will vow a vow to Yahweh and pay it. Yahweh will strike Egypt, striking but to heal, and they will return unto Yahweh, and he will be entreated for them and heal them. In that day there shall be a highway from Egypt to Assyria, and Assyria will come into Egypt, and Egypt into Assyria, and Egypt will serve with Assyria. In that day Israel shall become a third with Egypt and with Assyria, a blessing within the earth, with which Yahweh of hosts will bless them, saying, Blessed be my people Egypt, and the work of my hands Assyria, and my allotment Israel. Chapter 20. In the year the Tartan came to Ashdod, when Sargon king of Assyria sent him, he fought against Ashdod and seized it. In that era, Yahweh spoke by means of Isaiah son of Amoz, having said, Go and unloose the sackcloth off your waist, and pull off your sandals from your feet. Hence he did so, going about naked and barefoot. Then Yahweh said, Just as my servant Isaiah has gone about naked and barefoot, a 3-year sign and portent against Egypt and Cush, so shall the king of Assyria lead away the captive of Egypt and the deportee of Cush. Youths and elders, naked and barefoot, with bared buttocks, the nakedness of Egypt. And they will be dismayed and ashamed because of Cush, their fond hope, and because of Egypt, their beauty. And the dweller of this coastland will say in that day, Behold, thus is our fond hope, where we fled for help, to be rescued from the face of the king of Assyria. How then shall we ourselves escape? Chapter 21. Load of the swampland. Like sweeping whirlwinds in the Negeb that pass on, it comes from the wilderness, from a fear-inspiring land. A severe vision is told to me. The treacherous one is being treacherous, and the devastator is devastating. Go up, Elam, besiege Media. I will cause all her sighing to cease. Therefore my waist is filled with sore travail. Throes hold me like the throes of a woman giving birth. I am wretched from hearing. I am flustered from seeing. My heart fluctuates. Shuddering, it frightens me. The twilight I wished for has put me to trembling. Arrange the table. Keep watch through the watch. Eat, drink. Rise, chief officials, anoint the shield. For thus says Yahweh to me, go, have the watchman stand guard. What he sees, he shall tell. When he sees riders, a pair of horsemen, riders on donkeys, riders on camels, then he will attend attentively, with great attention. And the vigilant one is calling, on watch, O Yahweh, I am standing continually by day, and on my charge I am stationed every night. Behold this, coming is a chariotry of man, a pair of horsemen, and he is responding and saying, she has fallen, Babylon has fallen, and all the carvings of her Elohim are broken to the earth. My threshed people, and son of my threshing site, what I have heard from Yahweh of hosts, Elohim of Israel, I have told to you. Load of Duma. Someone is calling to me from Seir. Guard, what is left of the night? Guard, what is left of the night? The guard replies, morning has arrived, but again night. If you would petition, petition, turn about, come hither. Load in Arabia. In the wilds in Arabia you shall lodge all night, caravans of Dedanites. Come hither with water to meet the thirsty one. Dwellers of the land of Tema, succor the wanderer with bread for him. For they have bolted away from the presence of swords, from the presence of a deployed sword, from the presence of the positioned bow, and from the presence of the heaviness of war. For thus says Yahweh to me, in yet 3 years, like the years of a hireling, all the glory of Kedar will vanish, and the remnant of the number of bowmen, the masters of the sons of Kedar, shall be few, for Yahweh Elohim of Israel, he has spoken. Chapter 22, Load of the Ravine of Zion. What happened to you, indeed, that you go up, all of you, to the housetops, a city full of tumults? Clamoring is the joyous town. Your slain are not slain by the sword, nor are your dead, the dead of battle. All your captains, they had bolted away together. Without a bow they are taken prisoner. All your resolute, they are taken prisoner together, though they had run far away. Therefore I said, be heedless of me. I am bitter with lamentation. Do not rush to comfort me over the devastation of the daughter of my people. For a day of discomfiture and destruction, and trampling and perplexity is my Lord's, Yahweh of hosts. In the ravine of Zion is a scooping through the sidewall and a straying to the hill country. Elam lifts up the quiver with man, chariot, and horseman, and Kir unveils the shield. So it comes to be that the choicest of your vales are full of chariots, and the horsemen are set, yea, set at the gate. So they shall expose the portiere of Judah. Then you shall look in that day to the armory of the wildwood house. As for the rents of the city of David, you will see that they are numerous, and you shall bring together the water of the lower reservoir to the city. The houses of Jerusalem you will count off, and you shall tear down the houses to defend the wall. And you will make a moat between the two walls for the water of the ancient reservoir. Yet you will not look to its maker from the beginning, and its former from of old you will not see. My Lord Yahweh of hosts shall call for lamentation in that day, and for wailing and for baldness, and for girding on sackcloth. Yet behold, elation and rejoicing, killing from the herd and slaying from the flock, eating flesh and drinking wine, saying, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we shall die. Yet it is revealed in my ears by Yahweh of hosts. Assuredly no propitiatory shelter can be made for this depravity of yours before you die, says my Lord, Yahweh of hosts. Thus says my Lord, Yahweh of hosts, go enter unto this royal steward before Shebna, who is over the household, and you will say to him, what have you here? And whom have you here, that you hewed out a tomb for yourself here? He is hewing out his tomb on the height, delineating a tabernacle for himself in a crag. Behold, Yahweh of hosts shall hurl you as one casts forth a cloak, and he shall muffle you, yea, muffle. He shall twirl you, yea, twirl with a twirling, like a ball, into a land wide on all sides. There you shall die, and there will be your chariots of glory, dishonor of the house of your Lord. I will thrust you from your station, and from your standing shall I pull you down. And it will come to be in that day, I will call to my servant, to Eliakim son of Hilkiah. I will clothe him with your tunic, and your sash shall I fasten on him, and your rule shall I give into his hand. He will become a father to the dweller of Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. And I will place the key of the house of David on his shoulder. He will open and none shall lock, and he will lock and none shall open. I will fasten him like a peg in a sure place, and he will become a throne of glory to his father's house. They will hang on him all the glory of his father's house, the offspring and the issue, all the small vessels, from the vessels of goblets unto all the vessels of crocks. In that day, averring as Yahweh of hosts, the peg that was fastened in a sure place shall be removed, and it will be hacked down and fall, and the load that was on it will be cut off. For Yahweh, he has spoken. Chapter 23, Load of Tyre. Howl, ships of Tarshish, for it is devastated without a home, without an entrance. From the land of Kittim it is revealed to them. Be still, dwellers of the coastland, merchants of Sidon, those crossing the sea, they filled you. And through many waters came seed of Shihor. The harvest of the Nile was her income, and she became the mart of nations. Be ashamed, Sidon, for the sea speaks, the stronghold of the sea, saying, I have not travailed, nor have I given birth. I have not brought up choice young men, nor raised up virgins. As soon as the report comes to Egypt, they shall travail as to the report of Tyre. Pass on to Tarshish. Howl, dwellers of the coastland. Was this the joyous town for you, whose antiquity is from days of long ago, whose feet fetched her to sojourn afar? Who counseled this against Tyre, the crown giver, whose merchants were chiefs, whose traffickers were the illustrious of the earth? Yahweh of hosts, he counseled it to profane the pomp of all stateliness, to dishonor all the illustrious of the earth. Serve your land like the Nile, daughter of Tarshish. Ships have no wharf any longer. His hand he stretched out over the sea. He caused the kingdoms to be disturbed. Yahweh of hosts, he enjoined as to Canaan to exterminate its strongholds. And he said, no longer shall you continue to be joyous, throttled, virgin daughter of Sidon. Arise, pass over to Kittim. Even there you shall not find rest for yourself. Behold the land of the Chaldeans. This people became nothing. Assyria devastated it to be for desert beasts. They raised up its siege towers. They denuded its citadels. He made it a fallen heap. Howl, ships of Tarshish, for your stronghold is devastated. It will come to be in that day, Tyre shall be forgotten 70 years, as the days of one king. After the end of 70 years it shall be to Tyre like the song of the prostitute. Take a harp, go around the city, forgotten prostitute. Be skillful in playing, multiply songs that you may be remembered. And it will come to be after the end of 70 years, Yahweh shall visit Tyre, and she will return to her fee. And she will prostitute herself with all kingdoms of the earth on the surface of the ground. It will come to be that her merchandise and her fee will be holy to Yahweh. It shall not be treasured nor safeguarded, for her merchandise shall be for those who dwell before Yahweh, for eating to satisfaction and for well-made attire. Chapter 24. Behold Yahweh making the land void and evacuating it. He will contort its surface and scatter its dwellers. It will be like people, like priest, like servant, like his lord, like handmaid, like her mistress, like buyer, like seller, like lender, like borrower, like creditor, like him over whom he is creditor. The land shall be voided, yea voided, and plundered, yea plundered. For Yahweh, he has spoken this word. The land is mournful, it decays. The habitants is wasted away, it decays. The highest of the people of the land are wasted away, and the land, it is polluted under its dwellers. For they trespass the laws, they change the statute, they annul the Aeonian covenant. Therefore in imprecation it devours the land, and the dwellers in it are held guilty. Therefore the dwellers of the land grow pale, and of the people only a bit remains. The grape juice is mournful, the vine is wasted away, all the people rejoicing of heart sigh. The elation of tambourines ceases, the tumult of the joyous is halted, the elation of the harp ceases. They no longer drink wine with song. An intoxicant is bitter to those who drink it. The town of chaos is broken down. Every house is locked against entry. Yelling over wine is in the streets. All rejoicing is in its evening. The elation of the land is deported. There remains for the city desolation, and the gate shall be pounded to decimation. All shall become thus within the land, in the midst of the peoples, like the after-gleaning of an olive tree. Like clean gleanings when the vintage is finished. They shall lift up their voice. They shall be jubilant at the augustness of Yahweh. They will make a noise from the sea. Therefore in the coastlands they will glorify Yahweh. In the coastlands of the sea the name of Yahweh, Elohim of Israel. From the wings of the land we hear psalms, stately honor to the righteous one. Yet I am saying, leanness is mine. Leanness is mine. Woe unto me! The treacherous deal treacherously, yea, with treachery, the treacherous deal treacherously. Alarm and dark hole and snare upon you are they, dweller of the land. And it will be that the one who flees from the sound of the alarm, he shall fall into the dark hole. And the one who ascends from the midst of the dark hole, he shall be seized by the snare. For the crevices of the height, they will be opened, and the foundations of the earth shall quake. The earth will be smashed, yea, smashed. The earth will be quashed, yea, quashed. The earth will be made to slide, yea, slide. The earth shall sway, yea, sway like a drunkard, and it will be shaken like a hut. Its transgression will be heavy upon it, and it will fall and not rise again. It will come to be in that day, Yahweh shall call to account the host of the heights in the height, and the kings of the ground on the ground. They will be gathered, a gathering imprisoned in a crypt and enclosed in an enclosure. And for many days they shall be called to account. The moonbeams will be abashed, and the sunshine will be ashamed. For Yahweh of hosts will reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and in front of his elders shall he be glorified. Chapter 25. O Yahweh, my Elohim are you. I shall exalt you. I shall acclaim your name. For you perform a marvel, counsels from of old that are faithful. Amen. For you make a city into a mound, a fortress town into a fallen heap, a citadel of the arrogant from being a city. It shall not be rebuilt for an eon. Therefore a humble people shall glorify you. A town of terrifying nations shall fear you. For you are a stronghold for the poor one, a stronghold for the needy one in his distress, a refuge from the storm, a shade from the scorching heat. For the spirit of the terrifiers is like a storm against the sidewall. Like scorching heat in an arid place, you shall allay the tumult of the arrogant. Like scorching heat in the shadow of a thick cloud, the triumph psalm of terrifiers, it shall be humbled. Yahweh of hosts will make for all the peoples, on this mountain, a feast of rich foods, a feast of lees, rich foods of marrow, wine of filtered lees. And he will swallow up on this mountain the presence of the wrap which is wrapped over all the peoples, and the blanket which is blanketing over all the nations. He will swallow up death permanently, and my Lord Yahweh will wipe away every tear from all faces, and the reproach of his people he shall take away from the entire earth, for the mouth of Yahweh has spoken. And one will say in that day, Behold, this is Yahweh our Elohim. We are expectant in him, and he shall save us. This is Yahweh. We are expectant in him. Let us exult, and let us rejoice in his salvation. For the hand of Yahweh shall rest on this mountain, yet Moab will be stomped on under him, as crushed straw is stomped on in a manure pit. And within it he will spread out his hands, just as the swimmer spreads them to swim. Yet he will abase his pride, along with the lairs made by his hands, and the impregnable fortress of your walls he will prostrate, he will abase, he will bring in contact with the earth unto the dust. Chapter 26. In that day this song shall be sung in the land of Judah. Behold, we have a strong city, and our salvation shall he set for walls and rampart. Open the gates, and a righteous nation shall enter, one that is keeping truths. A stabilized bent you shall preserve in peace because it trusts in you. Trust in Yahweh into the futures of the future. Indeed in Yahweh, the rock for the eons. For he prostrates the dwellers of the height, the impregnable town, he shall abase it. He shall abase it unto the earth. He shall bring it in contact with the dust. The foot shall tramp it down, feet of the humble, footsteps of the poor. The path for the righteous is straight, O straight one. You shall balance the road of the righteous. Indeed, in the path of your judgments, O Yahweh, we are expectant in you. For your name and for your law is the yearning of our soul. With my soul I yearn for you in the night. Indeed, with my spirit within me I seek you early. For as a light your judgments will be to the earth. The dwellers of the habitants will learn righteousness. If the wicked is shown grace, he will fail to learn righteousness. In a land of correct ways he will commit iniquity, and he will fail to see the augustness of Yahweh. O Yahweh, they shall fail to perceive your hand exalted, yet they shall perceive and be ashamed by the zeal of the people. Indeed, the fire prepared for your foes, it shall devour them. O Yahweh, our Elohim, you shall set peace on the hearthstones for us, for indeed all our doings you have made for us. O Yahweh, our Elohim, other lords besides you have possessed us. In you alone shall we commemorate your name. The dead shall fail to live, and Rephaim shall fail to rise. Therefore you will call to account, and you shall exterminate them, and you shall destroy every remembrance of them. You will add to the nation, O Yahweh. You will add to the nation. You will be glorified. You will extend all the ends of the land afar. O Yahweh, in distress they note you. They pour out a whispered prayer in your discipline for them. Like a pregnant woman who is coming near to bear, who is travailing, who is crying out in her cramps. So have we become because of you, O Yahweh. We have become pregnant, we travail, yet it is as though we bear wind. We fail to execute your salvation on the earth, that the dwellers of the habitants may fall no more. Your dead shall live, their carcasses shall rise. Awake and be jubilant, tabernaclers of the soil. For the dew of light is your dew, and the land shall keep the Rephaim felled. Go, my people, enter your chambers, and close your double doors about you. Hide but a little moment until the menace shall pass. For behold, Yahweh is coming forth from his holy place to visit the depravity of the earth's dwellers upon it. The earth will expose its bloodshed, and no longer shall it cover over its killed. Chapter 27. In that day, Yahweh shall visit with his sword, hard, great, and steadfast, upon the dragon, the fugitive serpent, even upon the dragon, the tortuous serpent, and he will kill the monster which is in the sea. In that day there will be a coveted vineyard. Sing in response to it. I, Yahweh, am its preserver. Moment by moment I shall irrigate it, lest anyone visit harm upon it. Night and day I shall preserve it. Fury I will have none. If anyone should set against me buckthorn and spines, in battle I certainly would stride against them. I would ravage them altogether. But when one should hold fast in my strength, he shall make peace with me. He shall make peace with me. In the coming days Jacob shall take root, Israel shall blossom and bud, and they will fill the face of the habitants with produce. Has he smitten him like the smiting of those smiting him? Or has he suffered killing like the killing of those killing him? In moderation you are contending with her when sending her away. He removes her away with his stiff wind in the day of the east wind. Therefore in this shall a propitiatory shelter be made for the depravity of Jacob, and this is my propitiatory shelter to take away his sin. When he makes all the altar stones like shattered chalk stones, the Asherah poles and incense stands shall not rise. For the fortress city will be solitary. The homestead will be left alone and forsaken like a wilderness. There a calf shall graze and there recline, and it will consume its leafy boughs. When its harvest branches dry up, they shall be broken. Women shall come, lighting fires with them. For this is not a people of understanding. Therefore its maker shall not show it compassion, and its former shall not be gracious to it. It will come to be in that day, Yahweh shall beat gleanings from the trail of the stream unto the wadi of Egypt, and you yourselves shall be gleaned one by one, sons of Israel. It will also come to be in that day, a great trumpet shall be blown, and those perishing in the land of Assyria will come, and the outcasts in the land of Egypt, and they will worship Yahweh in the holy mount in Jerusalem. Chapter 28. Woe to the proud crown of the drunkards of Ephraim, and to the decaying blossom of his stately beauty, which lies at the head of the fertile ravine of those battered by wine. Behold, Yahweh has one who is steadfast and resolute, like a hailstorm, like a stinging hurricane, like a storm of waters, abundant, overflowing, that he will hurl down to the earth by his hand. It shall be tramped down by feet, the proud crown of the drunkards of Ephraim, and it will become the decaying blossom of his stately beauty, which is at the head of the fertile ravine. It will become like the first fruit ere the summer, which when the vigilant one is seeing it, while it is still in his palm, he is swallowing it up. In that day Yahweh of hosts shall become a stately crown, and a chaplet of beauty for the remnant of his people, and a spirit of right judgment for him who sits in judgment, and mastery for those who turn back the battle at the gate. Yet these also err by wine, and they stray by intoxicant. Priest and prophet, they err by intoxicant. They are swallowed up because of the wine. They stray because of the intoxicant. They err in sight. They quaver in discernment. Indeed, all the tables they are full of vomit, filth without a place left. Whom shall he direct in knowledge, and whom shall he cause to understand a report? Those weaned from milk, just taken from breasts? For instruction is added to instruction, instruction to instruction, principle to principle, principle to principle, a bit here, a bit there. Indeed, with deridings of lip, and in another tongue, he shall speak to this people. He who has said to them, this is the resting place. Give rest to the faint. This is the respite. Yet they would not hearken. Hence the word of Yahweh comes to them. Instruction is added to instruction, instruction to instruction, principle to principle, principle to principle, a bit here, a bit there, that they may walk and stumble back, and be broken and trapped and seized. Wherefore hear the word of Yahweh, you mocking men, proverb quoters of this people who are in Jerusalem. For you say, we have contracted a covenant with death, and with the unseen we have made a treaty. The overflowing scourge, when it passes, it shall not come on us. For we have made a lie our refuge, and in falsehood we are concealed. Wherefore thus says my Lord Yahweh, behold, I am laying a foundation stone in Zion, a choice stone, a precious corner, a well-founded foundation. The one believing, he shall not be put to shame. And I will make right judgment the measuring tape, and righteousness the plummet. Then hail will scoop away the refuge of the lie, and waters shall overflow the place of concealment. Your covenant with death will be annulled, and your treaty with the unseen, it shall not stand firm. The overflowing scourge, when it shall pass, you will be the one tramped down by it. As often as it passes, it shall take you. Indeed, morning by morning it shall pass, by day and by night, and it will be sheer stirring horror to comprehend the report. For the berth is too short to stretch forth oneself, and the blanket is too narrow to wrap up oneself. For as at Mount Perazim, Yahweh shall rise. As at the vale in Gibeon, he shall rage up to do his work. Alien is his work, and to serve his service. Foreign is his service. So now do not mock, lest your bonds should hold fast. For of a decisive conclusion have I heard from my Lord, Yahweh of hosts, on the entire land. Give ear and hear my voice. Attend and hear my word. Is the plowman plowing the entire day to sow? Is he continually opening and harrowing his ground? Does he not, when he has leveled out its surface, scatter dill and sprinkle cumin, and place wheat in its setting, and barley as marked off, and spelt along its boundary? He disciplines him as to right judgment. His Elohim, he is directing him. For not with spikes is dill threshed, nor is the cartwheel turned around over cumin, but with a rod is dill flailed, and cumin with a club. Bread grain, it must be pulverized, for not permanently is one threshing it, yea, threshing. Even if the rolling wheel of his cart rumbles over it, with his steeds he is not pulverizing it. This too from Yahweh of hosts it has come forth, who is marvelous in counsel, and he is great in sagacity. Chapter 29. Woe, Ariel, Ariel, town where David camped, add year to year, while festivals they run their cycle. Yet I will constrain Ariel, and there will come to be complaint and complaining, and it will come to be to me like an Ariel. I will encamp against you like David, and I will besiege you from a garrison, and raise siege works against you. Abased you shall speak from the earth, and from the soil your speech shall be bowed down. Your voice will be like a medium from the earth, and from the soil your speech shall chirp. And the throng of your arrogant ones will become like pulverized dust, and the throng of the terrifiers like passing trash. It will come in an instant, suddenly. You shall be visited by Yahweh of hosts, with thunder and with earthquake and a great sound, with sweeping whirlwind and tempest and blaze of devouring fire. And it will come to be like a dream, a night vision, the throng of all the nations, those enlisted against Ariel, and all the hosts against her, and the fastness against her, and those constraining her. It will come to be as when a famishing man is dreaming, and behold, he is eating, yet he awakes, and his soul remains empty. Or as when a thirsty man is dreaming, and behold, he is drinking, yet he awakes, and behold, he is faint, and his soul is unappeased. So shall be the throng of all the nations, those enlisted against Mount Zion. Dally and be amazed, entertain yourselves and revel. Be drunk, yet not from wine. Sway, yet not from intoxicant. For Yahweh has libated on you a spirit of stupor, and he has sealed down your eyes the prophets, and has covered your heads the visionaries. So the entire vision shall become to you like the words of a sealed scroll, which when they give it to one acquainted with script, saying, "Please read this," he says, "I cannot, for it is sealed." And if the scroll is given to one who is not acquainted with script, saying, "Please read this," he says, "I am not acquainted with script." And Yahweh is saying, because this people comes close to me with its mouth, and with its lips they glorify me. Yet its heart, it is far from me, and their fear of me is becoming an instruction of mortals that is learned. Therefore, behold, I am continuing to distribute this people, and I shall distribute them, and the wisdom of its wise will perish, and the understanding of its understanding ones shall conceal itself. Woe to those digging deep to conceal their counsel from Yahweh, so that it comes to be that in darkness are their deeds, and they say, "Who is seeing us, and who is knowing about us?" O your waywardness, as the clay should the potter be accounted? Indeed shall what is made say of its maker, "He did not make me"? Or does what is formed say of its former, "He does not understand"? Is it not only a little bit now, when Lebanon will turn about into cropland, and the cropland be accounted as wildwood? The deaf will hear in that day the words of a scroll, and from gloom and darkness, blind eyes they shall see. Then the humble shall add to their rejoicing in Yahweh, and the needy of humanity shall exult in the Holy One of Israel. For the terrifier will reach his limit, and the mocker will be finished, and all who are alert for lawlessness will be cut off, those who make a person a sinner with a word. And for the arbitrator in the gateway, they lay a trap and are turning aside the righteous into a chaos. Therefore, thus says Yahweh to the house of Jacob, he who parted Abraham, "Not now shall Jacob be ashamed, and not now shall Israel's face grow pale. For when he sees his children, the work of my hands in his midst, they shall hallow my name, and they shall hallow the Holy One of Jacob, and before Elohim of Israel they shall be awestricken. Those who stray in spirit will know understanding, and murmurers they shall learn from monition." Chapter 30, Woe to stubborn sons! Averring is Yahweh, in making counsel, yet not from me, and in libating a libation, yet not of my spirit, that they may add sin upon sin, who go descending to Egypt, yet did not ask at my mouth, to seek strength in Pharaoh's stronghold, and to take refuge in the shadow of Egypt. Yet Pharaoh's stronghold will become your shame, and the refuge in the shadow of Egypt, mortification. Though his chiefs come to be in Zoan, and his messengers, they attain to Hanes, all are put to shame on account of a people who are not benefiting them, not for help nor for benefit, but for shame and even for reproach. The load of the beasts of the Negeb, in a land of distress, in aridity and constraint, of lioness and long-maned lion, yet there is no water, of puff adder and burning flying serpent. They carry their estate on the shoulders of colts, and their treasures on the humps of camels, on behalf of a people who shall not benefit them. Egypt is vanity, and they shall help with naught. Therefore I call this one, an audacity are they that shall cease. Now come, write it on a tablet before them, and delineate it on a scroll, that it may come to be for a later day, for the future, unto the eon. For it is a rebellious people, sons of dissimulations, sons who would not hearken to the law of Yahweh, who say to the seers, "You shall not direct us," and to the visionaries, "You shall not envision correctives for us. Speak slick words to us, envision trifles. Withdraw from the way, turn aside from the path. Cause the Holy One of Israel to cease before us. Therefore, thus says the Holy One of Israel, because you have rejected this word and are trusting in extortion and deviousness, and are leaning on it, therefore this depravity shall become to you like a breach falling in, a bulging in an impregnable wall, of which suddenly, in an instant, its breaking is coming. Its breaking is like the breaking of a potter's crock, pounded to pieces unsparingly, and no shard shall be found among its fragments, to rake fire from a glowing hearth, or to skim water from a pool. For thus says my Lord Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, in returning and rest you shall be saved. In quietness and in trust shall your mastery come. Yet you are not willing to hear. And you are saying, "No, for we shall flee on a horse. Therefore you shall flee, and we shall ride on a fleet beast. Therefore your pursuers shall also be fleet. 1,000 before the threat of one, before the threat of 5, you shall flee, until you would be left like a mast on a mountaintop or like a banner on a hill. Yet wherefore Yahweh is tarrying to show you grace, and wherefore he is raising up to show you compassion. For Yahweh is the Elohim of right judgment. Happy are all tarrying for him. For a holy people shall dwell in Zion. In Jerusalem you shall not lament, nay lament. He shall show you grace, yea grace at the sound of your outcry. As soon as he hears, he will answer you. Though Yahweh will give you the bread of distress and the water of oppression, yet your director no longer shall hem himself in, and your eyes will come to see your director, and your ears they shall hear a word behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it, in case you turn right or in case you turn left." You will defile your silver overlaid carvings and your gold invested molten image. You shall toss them away like a menstrual cloth. Filth, shall you say to it. Then he will give rain for your seed with which you shall sow the ground, and bread the yield of the ground, and it will be full of richness and nutritious. Your cattle shall graze in that day in a broad meadow, and the domestic animals and the donkey colts that serve the ground. They shall eat sour fodder, which is winnowed with winnowing shovel and with winnowing fork. And there will come to be on every lofty mountain and on every uplifted hill, rillets, runnels of water, in that day of great killing, when the towers fall. Then the light of the moonbeam will be like the light of the sunshine, and the light of the sunshine, it shall be sevenfold like the light of 7 days, in the day when Yahweh binds up the brokenness of his people, and the lesion of his smiting he shall heal. Behold, the name of Yahweh comes from afar, his anger consuming, with a heavy load. His lips, they are full of indignation, and his tongue like devouring fire, and his spirit like an overflowing wadi, which is dividing at the neck, to wave the nations with a wave of ruination, and a bridle on the cheeks of the peoples, leading astray. There shall be a song for you as on a night when a festival is sanctified, and rejoicing of heart as when one is going with a flute, to come unto the mount of Yahweh, to the rock of Israel. Then Yahweh will make the splendor of his voice heard, and he shall show the settling down of his arm, with turbulent anger and blaze of devouring fire, a shattering blast and a storm and hailstones. For at the voice of Yahweh, Assyria shall be undone. With a club shall he smite them. And it will be that every passing of his disciplinary rod, which Yahweh shall settle on him, will be with tambourines and harps, and with waving battles he shall battle against them. For a pyre is arranged from past days, even it, for the king is it prepared. He has deepened, has widened its stack for fire and much wood. Yahweh's breath, like a wadi of sulfur, shall be consuming it. Chapter 31. Woe to those going down to Egypt for help. On horses are they leaning, and they are trusting in chariots because they are many, and on horsemen because they are very plentiful. They do not heed the Holy One of Israel, and of Yahweh they do not inquire. Yet indeed he is wise, and he shall bring evil, and his words he does not withdraw. He rises against the house of evildoers, and against the help of those contriving lawlessness. Yet the Egyptians are human and not El, and their horses are flesh and not spirit. When Yahweh he is stretching out his hand, then the one helping will stumble, and the one helped will fall, and together all of them shall be finished. For thus says Yahweh to me, just as the lion snarls or the sheltered lion over its prey, when a full force of shepherds is called against it, by their voice it is not dismayed, nor by their clamor is it humbled. So Yahweh of hosts shall descend to rally his host on Mount Zion and on its hill. Like birds flying, so Yahweh of hosts shall protect Jerusalem. Protecting he will rescue, and passing over, he will make a way of escape. Return to him from whom they have deepened defection, sons of Israel. For in that day each one shall reject his forbidden idols of silver and his forbidden idols of gold, which your hands have made for yourselves in sin. Then the Assyrian will fall by a sword, not of a man, and a sword not of a human, it shall devour him, and he will flee for himself from the presence of the sword. Yet his choice young men shall be for tributary service. His crag it shall pass away because of shrinking fear, and his chiefs will be dismayed because of the banner, averring is Yahweh, whose firelight is in Zion, and whose stove is in Jerusalem. Chapter 32. Behold, according to righteousness, a king shall reign. As for chiefs, according to right judgment, shall they control. A man will be like a hiding place from the wind, and a place of concealment from the storm, like rillets of water in an arid place, like the shadow of a massive crag in a fainting land. The eyes of those who see shall not squint, and the ears of those who hear shall be attentive. The heart of those who are hasty shall understand knowledge, and the tongue of the stammerers shall hasten to speak fluently. No longer shall the decadent one be called princely, nor shall it be said of the miser, Savior. For the decadent one speaks decadence, and his heart works lawlessness, to practice pollution and to speak confusion about Yahweh, to make the soul of the famished empty, and he abates the drink of the thirsty. As for the miser, his instruments are evil. He himself counsels schemes to harm the humble with false words. And when the needy one speaks, he shatters right judgment. Yet the princely one counsels willingness, and he himself is standing firm on willingness. Self-satisfied women, rise up and hear my voice. Complacent daughters, give ear to my word. In days over a year you shall be disturbed, complacent ones, for the vintage will fail. The gathering shall come as nothing at all. Tremble, self-satisfied ones. Be disturbed, complacent ones. Strip and denude yourselves with but a girdle skirt on the loins, on the wailing breasts. Over the coveted field, over the fruitful vine, over my people's ground, thorn and buckthorn shall grow up. Indeed, over all the houses of Elation, the joyous town. For the citadel it will be abandoned, the clamorous city it will be forsaken. Fort and lookout, such will become caves into the future, unto the eon, an elation of onagers, pasture for droves, until the spirit from the height shall be emptied out upon us. Then the wilderness will become cropland, and cropland shall be accounted as wildwood. Then right judgment will tabernacle in the wilderness, and righteousness it shall dwell in the cropland. Then the work of righteousness will be peace, and the service of righteousness, quietness and trust unto the eon. Then my people will dwell in a homestead of peace, and in serene tabernacles, and in tranquil resting places. Though it will hail when the wildwood descends, when the city shall be brought low in a low place. Happy are you, those who sow by all the water, who send forth the foot of the bull and the donkey. Chapter 33. Woe, devastator, you who have not been devastated, and treacherous one, yet they have not dealt treacherously with you. When you come to end devastation, you shall be devastated. When you have culminated dealing treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with you. O Yahweh, be gracious to us. Toward you are we expectant. Become our arm in the mornings, indeed, our salvation in the time of distress. Because of the sound of clamor, the peoples wander. Because of your thunder, the nations are scattered. And your loot is gathered as the gathering of the beetle. As the onrushing of hoppers shall one rush upon it. Impregnable is Yahweh, for he is tabernacling in the height. He fills Zion with judgment and righteousness, and he becomes the faithfulness of your times. The safeguard of salvation, wisdom and knowledge is the fear of Yahweh. This is its treasure. Behold, the Arealites cry outside. The messengers of peace, they are lamenting bitterly. The highways are desolated. He who passes along the path has ceased. One has annulled a covenant, has rejected witnesses, has accounted mortal man as nothing. It is mournful. The land is wasted away. Lebanon is abashed. It withers. Sharon has become like the Arabah, and Bashan and Carmel are shaking off their leaves. Now I shall arise, Yahweh is saying. Now I shall be exalted. Now I shall be lifted up. You shall become pregnant with chaff. You shall generate stubble. Your spirit is a fire that shall devour you. The peoples will become burnings of lime. Like thorns obliterated, they shall be ravaged by fire. Hear you who are afar, what I have done, and know you who are near, my mastery. Sinners in Zion are afraid. Quivering holds the polluted. Who among us shall sojourn through devouring fire? Who among us shall sojourn through Aeonian glowings? He who walks in righteousness and speaks upright words, who rejects gain from extortions, who shakes his palms from upholding a bribe, who closes up his ears from hearkening to blood plans, and who seals down his eyes from seeing evil, he shall tabernacle on the heights. Fastnesses in crags will be his impregnable retreat. His bread shall be provided, his water assured. The king in his loveliness shall your eyes perceive. They shall see a land of far distances. Your heart shall soliloquize concerning the past dread. Where is the scribe? Where is the weigher? Where is he who counted off the towers? The impudent people you shall see no more. The people too deep of lip to make out. A stammering tongue which is without understanding. Perceive Zion, town of our appointments. Your eyes shall see Jerusalem as a tranquil homestead. A tent one shall no more pack up. Its pegs one shall never uproot again, permanently, and all its rope lines shall be pulled away no more. But rather there Yahweh will be for us in nobility, a place of streams, waterways broad in expanse, on which no galley fleet shall ever go, and no noble boats shall ever cross them. For Yahweh is our judge. Yahweh is our statute maker. Yahweh is our king. He himself shall save us. Your rope lines are abandoned. They shall no more hold fast your mast in its socket. They will no more spread out the banner. Then loot in increase shall be apportioned unto the blind. The lame, they will plunder the plunder. And by no means shall the tabernacler say, I am ill. For the people who dwell in it, depravity will be lifted. Chapter 34, Draw near nations to hear, and folk attend. Let the earth hear, and its fullness, the habitants and all its offsprings. For wrath has Yahweh against all the nations, and fury against all their host. He will doom them. He will give them up to slaughter. Their slain they shall be flung away, and from their corpses their stink shall ascend. The mountains will be melted from their blood, and the vales shall be putrefied. All the host of the heavens shall decay, and the heavens will be rolled up like a scroll. All their host shall decay as a leaf decays from the vine, and like a decaying leaf from a fig tree. When my sword has been satiated in the heavens, behold, on Edom it shall descend, and on the people I have doomed for judgment. A sword has Yahweh, it is full of blood. It lubricates itself with fat, with the blood of budding lambs and he-goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For a sacrifice has Yahweh in Bozrah, and a great slaughter in the land of Edom. Wild bulls will go down with them, and young bulls with the sturdy beasts. Their earth will be soaked with blood, and their soil shall be greased with fat. For a day of vengeance has Yahweh, a year of repayments for Zion's cause. Its wadis will be turned to pitch, and its soil to sulfur, and its earth will become pitch blazing forth. By night and by day it shall not be quenched. For the eon its smoke shall ascend. From generation to generation it shall be deserted. For a permanency of permanencies there shall be no one passing in it. The pelican and the hedgehog will take it over, and the eagle owl and the raven, they shall roost in it. One will stretch out over it the measuring tape of chaos and the plumb stones of vacancy. Its notables no kingdom shall be there that they can proclaim, and all its chiefs they shall come to be nil. Briars will come up in its citadels, the stinging nettle and thistle in its fortresses, and it will become a homestead of wild jackals, a court for ostriches. Desert beasts will encounter desert howlers, and the wild hairy goat shall call to his mate. Yea, there the hoot owl will lull and find a resting place for itself. There the scops owl will nest. It shall lay eggs and hatch them, and it will brood over them in its shadow. Yea, there the black kites will be convened, each with her mate. Inquire from the scroll of Yahweh and read. None of these will be missing, not one will miss her mate, for his mouth it will instruct them, and his spirit it will convene them. He himself will cast the lot for them, and his hand it will apportion it to them by measuring tape. Until the eon they shall take it over. For generation after generation they shall roost in it. Chapter 35. The wilderness and the arid place shall be elated in them. Let the Arabah exult. It shall bud like a narcissus. It shall bud, yea, bud. Let it exult indeed, with exultation and jubilant song. The glory of the Lebanon will be given to it, the honor of Carmel and Sharon. My people, they shall see the glory of Yahweh, the honor of our Elohim. Make steadfast the hands of the slack, and the faltering knees make resolute. Say to those with hastening hearts, be steadfast, do not fear. Behold your Elohim, with vengeance he shall come. With the requital of Elohim, he himself shall come and save you. Then the eyes of the blind shall be unclosed, and the ears of the deaf, they shall be opened. Then the lame one shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the mute person shall be jubilant. For waters will break forth in the wilderness, and watercourses shall flow in the Arabah. The parched sink will become a pond, and the thirsty ground founts of water, in the homestead of wild jackals, a morass, a court for reed and papyrus. A highway, a clean one, will be there, and it shall be called the holy way. The unclean one shall not pass over it, since it is for his people in walking the way. Yet fools they shall not stray therein. No lion shall come there, nor shall any ferocious animal ascend it. It shall not be found there. Yet the redeemed will walk in it, and the ransomed of Yahweh they shall return. They will enter Zion with jubilant song, and with Eonian rejoicing on their heads. Elation and rejoicing shall overtake them, and affliction and sighing will flee. Chapter 36. It came to be in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, marched up against all the fortressed cities of Judah and took possession of them. And the king of Assyria sent the Rabshakeh from Lachish to Jerusalem to King Hezekiah with a massive army. So he stood by the trench of the uppermost reservoir at the highway of the field of the launderer. Then there came forth to him Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah, son of Asaph the recorder. The Rabshakeh said to them, Now you tell Hezekiah, thus speaks the great king, the king of Assyria. What is this trust in which you have trusted? You claim to have counsel and mastery for the war, yet this is only a word of lips. Now on whom have you trusted that you revolted against me? Behold, you have trusted on the support staff of this fractured reed, on Egypt, which if a man should support himself on it, would enter into his palm and pierce it. Such is Pharaoh king of Egypt to all those trusting on him. And in case you should say to me, On Yahweh our Elohim we trust, is he not the one whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah took away, and said to Judah and to Jerusalem, Before this altar shall you worship? Now then, negotiate with my lord the king of Assyria. Let me give you 2,000 horses, if you are able for your part to put any riders on them. Then how could you reverse the face of one viceroy of my lord's least significant officials, when you, for your part, trusted on Egypt for chariots and for horsemen? And now is it apart from Yahweh that I have come up against this land to ruin it? Yahweh himself said to me, March up against this land and ruin it. Then Eliakim and Shebna and Joah replied to the Rabshakeh, Speak, we pray, to your servants in Syrian, for we can make it out. Do not speak to us in Judean in the ears of the people who are on the wall. Yet the Rabshakeh said, Was it to your lord and to you that my lord has sent me to speak these words? Was it not rather to the men sitting on the wall, who shall eat their own excrement and drink their urine with you? Then the Rabshakeh stood and called out in a loud voice in Judean. He said, Hear the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus speaks the king. Let not Hezekiah lure you, for he is not able to rescue you. Let not Hezekiah make you trust in Yahweh, saying, Yahweh shall rescue, yea, rescue us, and this city shall not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Do not hearken to Hezekiah, for thus speaks the king of Assyria. Make of me a blessing, and come forth to me, and eat each man of his vine, and each man of his fig tree, and drink each man the water of his cistern, until I come and take you to a land like your land, a land of grain and grape juice, a land of bread and vineyards. Beware lest Hezekiah should allure you, saying, Yahweh himself shall rescue us. Did the Elohim of the nations rescue any man's land from the hand of the king of Assyria? Where are the Elohim of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the Elohim of Sepharvaim? When have they rescued Samaria from my hand? Which among all the Elohim of these lands rescued their land from my hand, assuring you that Yahweh shall rescue Jerusalem from my hand? Yet they kept silence and did not answer him a word, for this had been the king's instruction, saying, You shall not answer him. Then Eliakim son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah son of Asaph the recorder, came to Hezekiah with their garments torn, and they told him the words of the Rabshakeh. Chapter 37. It came to be when King Hezekiah heard it, that he tore his garments, covered himself with sackcloth, and entered the house of Yahweh. He also sent Eliakim, who was over the household, and Shebna, the scribe, and the elders of the priests, covered with sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz. They said to him, Thus speaks Hezekiah, A day of distress, reproof, and indignity is this day, as when sons have come to the point of breaking forth, yet there is no vigor to give birth. Perhaps Yahweh, your Elohim, shall hearken to the words of the Rabshakeh, whom the king of Assyria his lord has sent to reproach the living Elohim, and he will reprove him for the words that Yahweh your Elohim has heard. Now lift up a prayer in behalf of the remnant that is found in this city. When the officials of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah, Isaiah said to them, Thus you shall say to your Lord, Thus speaks Yahweh, Do not stand in fear because of the words that you have heard with which the retainers of the king of Assyria taunted me. Behold, I am putting a spirit in him. He will hear a report and return to his land, and I will fell him by the sword in his own land. Now the Rabshakeh had turned back and found the king of Assyria fighting against Libnah, for he had heard that he had decamped from Lachish. Yet the king of Assyria heard a report about Tirhakah king of Cush, saying, He has marched forth to fight against you. When he heard, he sent messengers to Hezekiah, saying, Thus shall you speak to Hezekiah king of Judah, saying, Let not your Elohim, in whom you are trusting, lure you into thinking that Jerusalem shall not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Behold, you yourself have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all the lands to doom them. And shall you be rescued? Have the Elohim of the nations rescued them, those which my fathers ruined? Gozan and Charan, Rezeph and the sons of Eden, who were in Telassar? Where is the king of Hamath, the king of Arpad, and the king of the city of Sepharvaim, Hena and Eva in Samaria? Hezekiah took the scrolls from the hand of the messengers and read it and went up to the house of Yahweh. Then Hezekiah spread it out before Yahweh, and Hezekiah prayed to Yahweh, saying, O Yahweh of hosts, Elohim of Israel, dwelling over the cherubim, you by yourself alone are he, who is the one Elohim over all the kingdoms of the earth. You yourself have made the heavens and the earth. Stretch out your ear, O Yahweh, and hear. Unclose your eyes, O Yahweh, and see, and hear all the words of Sennacherib that he has sent to reproach the living Elohim. It is true, O Yahweh, the kings of Assyria did drain all the lands in their land, and put their Elohim into the fire, and destroyed them. For they were no Elohim, but rather the work of human hands, wood and stone. And now, O Yahweh, our Elohim, save us from his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you, Yahweh, by yourself alone are Elohim. Then Isaiah son of Amoz sent to Hezekiah, saying, Thus speaks Yahweh, Elohim of Israel. What you prayed to me as to Sennacherib king of Assyria have I heard. This is the word that Yahweh has spoken against him. She despises you, she derides you, the virgin daughter of Zion. Behind you she wags her head, the daughter of Jerusalem. Whom have you reproached and taunted? And against whom have you raised high your voice and lifted up your eyes to the height? Against the Holy One of Israel. By means of your servants you have reproached Yahweh, and you said, With the multitude of my chariots, I myself have ascended the height of mountains, the flanks of Lebanon, and I have cut down its tall stand of cedars, its choicest firs. I have entered its outmost height, its Carmel wildwood. I myself scooped and drank alien waters, and I have drained with the sole of my feet all the waterways of Lower Egypt. Have you not heard? From of old I purposed it, from days aforetime also I formed it. Now I have brought it to pass that you have come into being, to decimate fortressed cities into crumbled mounds. Their dwellers are short-handed, are dismayed and ashamed. They have become like herbage of the field and green vegetation, grass of the housetops, blasted before the east wind. You're rising and you're sitting down. You're going forth and you're coming in, I know, and you're ranting against me. Because your ranting against me and your self-satisfaction have ascended into my ears. So I will place my gaff in your nose and my bit in your lips, and I will reverse you in the way by which you came. Now this is the sign for you. Eat this year the self-sown, and in the second year spontaneous growth. Yet in the third year sow and reap, plant vineyards and eat their fruit. The salvage that remains of the house of Judah will proceed to take root downward and will yield fruit upward. For from Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and a salvage from Mount Zion. The zeal of Yahweh of hosts, it shall achieve this. Wherefore thus speaks Yahweh as to the king of Assyria. He shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor confront it with a shield, nor pour out earthwork against it. By the way which he came, by it he shall return, yet into this city he shall not enter. This is the averring of Yahweh. I will protect this city to save it on my own account and on account of my servant David. Then a messenger of Yahweh went forth and smote 185,000 in the Assyrian camp. When the king's men rose early in the morning, behold, there were all their dead corpses. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, decamped, went away, and returned home, and he dwelt in Nineveh. Then it came to pass, while he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch, his Elohim, that his sons Adramelech and Sharezer smote him with the sword. As for them, they escaped to the land of Ararat, and his son Esarhaddon reigned in his stead. Chapter 38. In those days Hezekiah was ill to death. So Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, came to him and said to him, Thus speaks Yahweh, give instruction to your household, for you are going to die. You shall not remain alive. Hezekiah turned his face around to the sidewall and prayed to Yahweh, saying, O Yahweh, remember, I pray, how I have walked before you in faithfulness and wholeheartedly, and I have done what is good in your eyes. Then Hezekiah lamented with great lamentation. After this Yahweh's word came to Isaiah, saying, Go, and you will say to Hezekiah, Thus speaks Yahweh, the Elohim of your father David. I have heard your prayer. I have seen your tears. Behold, I will add to your days 15 years, and from the palm of the king of Assyria I shall rescue you in this city. I will protect this city on my own account and on account of my servant David. And this is the sign for you from Yahweh, that Yahweh shall perform this word that he has spoken. Behold, I shall reverse the shadow on the steps that had descended on the stairs of the upper chamber of Ahaz, by the sun back again 10 steps. And the sun turned back 10 steps on the stairs which it had descended. A written psalm by Hezekiah king of Judah, when he was ill and revived from his illness. I myself said, In the height of my days I must go into the gates of the unseen. I am made to miss the rest of my years. I said, I shall not see Yah in the land of the living, and I shall not look on humanity further, or the dwellers of transience. My lifespan is uprooted and is deported from me like a shepherd's tent. I have rolled up my life like a weaver. He is clipping me from the thrum. From day unto night you are finishing me up. I compose myself until the morning. Like a lion, so he is breaking all my bones. From day unto night you are finishing me up. Like a swift, a thrush, so am I chirping. I am cooing like a dove. My eyes are weakened in looking to the height. O Yahweh, threatening is for me. Be surety for me. What shall I speak? He speaks to me, and he himself does it. I shall pilgrimage all my years on account of the bitterness of my soul. O Yahweh, on account of them they shall be lived, and for all in them my spirit will have life. You console me and preserve me alive. Behold, it was for well-being that it was very bitter for me. Yet you yourself kept back my soul from the pit of decay, for you have flung all my sins behind your back. Indeed, the unseen cannot acclaim you, nor can death praise you, and those who descend into a crypt cannot look forward to your faithfulness. The living one. He is acclaiming you as I do today. The Father makes known to his sons your faithfulness. Yahweh is to save me, and we shall play my accompaniments all the days of our lives at the house of Yahweh. Now Isaiah had said, let them take up pressed dried figs, and put a poultice on the boil, that he may revive. Yet Hezekiah had said, what is the sign that I shall go up to the house of Yahweh? Chapter 39. In that era, Merodach-Baladan, son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent scrolls and a present to Hezekiah when he heard that he had been ill, yet was mending. Hezekiah rejoiced over them and showed them all his treasure house, the silver and the gold, the aromatics and the good oil, his whole house of weapons and all that was to be found in his treasuries. There was not a thing that Hezekiah did not show them in his house and in all his realm. Then Isaiah the prophet came to King Hezekiah and demanded of him, what did these men say, and from where did they come to you? Hezekiah replied, they came from a far land to me, from Babylon. Isaiah asked, what did they see in your house? Hezekiah said, they saw everything that is in my house. There is not a thing that I did not show them in my treasuries. Then Isaiah said to Hezekiah, hear the word of Yahweh of hosts. Behold, days are coming when all that is in your house, and that your fathers treasured until this day will be carried off to Babylon. Not a thing shall be left, says Yahweh. And some of your sons, who shall come forth from you, whom you shall beget, they shall be taken away, and they will become eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. Hezekiah replied to Isaiah, good is the word of Yahweh that you have spoken, for he thought, indeed peace and faithfulness shall come to be in my days. Chapter 40. Comfort, O comfort. My people's saying is your Elohim. Speak to the heart of Jerusalem, and proclaim to her that her enlistment is fulfilled, that her depravity is dealt with benevolently, that she has taken from the hand of Yahweh shelters from all her sins. A voice of one proclaiming, in the wilderness surface the way of Yahweh, and make straight in the Arabah a highway for our Elohim. Every ravine it shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill they shall be brought low. The crooked will become straight, and the knobby terrain a level valley. The glory of Yahweh will be revealed, and all flesh will see the salvation of Elohim. For the very mouth of Yahweh it is spoken, a voice saying, proclaim. And I said, what shall I proclaim? All flesh is grass, and all its glory is as the blossom of the field. Grass dries up, blossom decays. For the spirit of Yahweh it turns about against it. Surely the people are grass. Grass dries up, blossom decays. Yet the word of our Elohim, it shall stand firm for the eon. On a lofty mountain get you up, tidings bearer, to Zion. Raise high your voice with vigor, tidings bearer, to Jerusalem. Raise it high, do not fear. Say to the cities of Judah, behold your Elohim. Behold my Lord Yahweh, he shall come with steadfastness, and his arm ruling for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his wage is before him. Like a shepherd he shall graze his drove. In his arm he shall gather the lambkins together, and in his bosom he shall carry them. He shall conduct those recently freshened. Who measures the waters in the hollow of his hand, gauges the heavens with a span, contains the soil of the earth in a peck measure, and weighs with a balance the mountains and the hills with scales? Who gauges the spirit of Yahweh and is informing him as a man of his counsel? With whom does he take counsel? And who is giving him understanding, is teaching him in judgment's path, is teaching him knowledge and is informing him the way of understanding? Or who gives to him first, and it shall be repaid to him? Behold, all nations are as a drop from a bucket, and as dust on the scales are they accounted. Behold, like thinnest gauze he lifts up the coastlands, and Lebanon is not sufficient for consuming, and all its animals are not sufficient for an ascent offering, and all the nations are as nothing in front of him. Less than nil and a chaos are they accounted by him. To whom then shall you liken El? And what likeness shall you arrange for him? A carving. A craftsman makes a molten image, and a goldsmith, he stamps it with gold, refining chains of silver. The careful one, as a heave offering, chooses wood that shall not rot. He seeks for himself a wise craftsman to prepare a carving that shall be immovable. Do you not know? Do you not hear? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not gained understanding from the foundations of the earth? It is he who sits over the circle of the earth, so that its dwellers are like grasshoppers, who is stretching out the heavens like thinnest gauze, and is billowing them out like a tent to dwell in. It is he who is bringing chancellors to nothing. Judges of the earth he makes to be like chaos. Hardly are they planted, hardly are they sown, hardly is their set slip rooted in the earth, when also he sends a breeze against them, and they dry up, and a tempest, it bears them away like stubble. To whom then shall you liken me, and to whom shall I be equal? The Holy One is saying, lift your eyes to the height and see. Who created all these? He who is bringing forth their host by number, he is calling to them all by name. Because of the greatness of his virility and his resolute vigor, not one is missing. Why, Jacob, are you saying, and Israel, are you speaking? My way is concealed from Yahweh, and my judgment is passed over by my Elohim. Do you not know, or do you not hear? The Elohim Eonian is Yahweh, creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint, nor is he wearied. There is no fathoming of his understanding. He is giving vigor to the faint, and to one who is without virility, he is increasing staunchness. Youths may faint and be wearied, and choice young men may stumble, yea, stumble. Yet those who are expectant in Yahweh, they shall rejuvenate with vigor, they shall ascend on pinions like vultures, they shall run and not be wearied, they shall walk and not faint. Chapter 41, Be renewed before me, coastlands, and let the folk be rejuvenated with vigor. Let them come close, then let them speak. Let us come near together for judgment. Who rouses one from the east? In righteousness he is calling him to his feet. He is setting the nations before him, and over kings is he holding sway. And he is giving them like dust to his sword, like stubble whisked away to his bow. He is pursuing them. He is passing on in peace, a path he has not entered before with his feet. Who effects and does these things, calling the generations from the beginning? I, Yahweh the first, and with the last generations I am he. The coastlands see and are fearful. The ends of the earth are trembling. They draw near and are arriving. Each is helping his associate, and to his brother he is saying, be steadfast. So the craftsman is encouraging the goldsmith. He who smooths with the forge hammer, him who hammers on the anvil, saying of the soldering, it is good, and one is making it fast with nails that it shall be immovable. Now you, Israel, my servant Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, who loved me, whom I have encouraged from the ends of the earth, and from its distant parts I have called you. I say to you, my servant are you, I have chosen you, and I have not rejected you. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not gaze wonderingly, for I am your Elohim. I make you resolute. Indeed, I help you. Indeed, I uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. Behold, they shall be ashamed and mortified, all who were heated against you. They shall become as nothing, and the men in contention against you shall perish. You shall seek them, yet not find them. The men in a strife against you, they shall become as nothing, and as nil the men at war upon you. For I am Yahweh your Elohim, who holds fast your right hand, who says to you, do not fear, I myself help you. Do not fear, worm Jacob, dying ones of Israel. I myself help you. Avering is Yahweh your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. Behold, I have constituted you a threshing sledge, spiked, new, possessing serrated edges. You shall thresh mountains and pulverize them, and you shall make hills like trash. You shall winnow them, and the wind, it shall carry them away, and the tempest, it shall scatter them. Yet you shall exult in Yahweh, and in the Holy One of Israel you shall boast. The humble and the needy are seeking water, yet there is none. Their tongue it is parched with thirst. Yahweh, I shall respond to them. The Elohim of Israel, I shall not forsake them. I shall open streams on the ridges, and springs in the midst of the valleys. I shall convert the wilderness into a pond of water, and the arid land into flowing wells of water. I shall bestow the cedar in the wilderness, the acacia and the myrtle and the oleaster tree. I shall place the fir in the Arabah, the elm and the box tree together, that they may see and know, and they may consider and contemplate together. For the hand of Yahweh, it did all this. Yea, the Holy One of Israel, he created it. Bring your cause near, saying is Yahweh Elohim. Bring close your staunch arguments, saying is the King of Jacob. Let them come close and tell us what shall happen. The former things, tell what they were, and we shall indeed set our heart on it. And let us indeed know their hereafter, or announce to us the things to come. Tell what will arrive hereafter, and we shall certainly know that you are Elohim. Indeed, you shall do good and do evil, and let us certainly gaze wonderingly and stare together. Behold, you are from nothing, and your contrivance is from nullity. One who is choosing you is an abhorrence. I rouse one from the north, and he shall arrive. From the sunrise, and he shall proclaim in my name. He shall trample prefects as clay, and as a potter is tramping mud. Who has told from the beginning so we would certainly know, and from before time so we would say, it is right? Indeed, there was none telling. Indeed, none announcing. Indeed, there was no one having heard your sayings. First to Zion, behold, behold them. And to Jerusalem I shall give a tidings bearer. Yet should I examine, there is no man, and of these there is no counselor, that I should ask them, and they should reply with a word. Behold, all of them are nothing, and their deeds are nil. Wind and chaos are their molten images. Chapter 42. Behold my servant, I am upholding him, my chosen one whom my soul holds dear. I have bestowed my spirit upon him, and he shall bring forth right judgment to the nations. He shall not cry out nor lift his voice, nor shall he make his voice heard in the street. A reed that is bruised he shall not break, and a flaxen wick that is dim he shall not quench it. Unto truth he shall bring forth right judgment, and he shall not be dimmed nor bruised, until he should place right judgment in the earth, and the coastlands wait for his law. Thus says the one, Yahweh, creator of the heavens, who stretched them out, who stamped out the earth and its output, who gives breath to the people on it, and spirit to those walking in it. I, Yahweh, I call you in righteousness, and I shall hold fast to your hand. I shall preserve you and give you for a covenant of the people, for a light of the nations, to unclose the eyes that are blind, to bring forth the prisoner from the enclosure, and those dwelling in darkness from the house of detention. I am Yahweh, that is my name, and my glory I shall not give to another, or my praise to carvings. The former things, behold, they came. Now I will tell the new. Ere they are sprouting, I shall announce them to you. Sing to Yahweh a new song, his praise from the end of the earth, you who go down to the sea and its fullness, the coastlands and their dwellers. The wilderness and its cities shall be elated, the hamlets where somberness is dwelling, and the dwellers of the crags shall be jubilant. From the summit of the mountains they shall yell. They shall attribute glory to Yahweh and tell forth his praise among the coastlands. Yahweh himself shall go forth like a master, like a man of wars. He shall rouse up zeal. He shall shout. Indeed, he shall loudly roar. He shall have mastery over his enemies. Yea, I have hushed from the eon, saying, I shall be silent. I shall check myself. Like one giving birth, I shall shout out. I shall breathe and gasp together. I shall drain mountains and hills, and all their herbage shall I dry up. I shall convert streams into sandbars, and the ponds shall I dry up. I will conduct the blind in a way they do not know, and in tracks they do not know I shall cause them to tread. I shall convert darkness before them to light, and rough places to level ground. These are the things that I do, and I do not forsake them. They are turned away backward. They shall be ashamed, yea, ashamed, who trust in a carving, who say to a molten image, you are our Elohim. You deaf ones, hear, and blind ones, look to see. Who is blind save my servant, and so deaf as my messenger whom I am sending? Who is so blind as my confidant, and so deaf as the servant of Yahweh? You see much, yet you are not observing. Ears unclosed, yet you are not hearkening. Yahweh, he has delight for the sake of his righteousness, and he may magnify the law and ennoble it. Yet this is a people plundered and robbed, snared in holes, all of them, and in houses of detention are they hidden. They have come to be for plunder, and there is no rescuer, for robbery, and no one says, Restore. Who among you shall give ear to this, shall attend and hearken for the hereafter? Who has given Jacob to the robber, and Israel to the plunderers? Is it not Yahweh, against whom they have sinned? For they have not been willing to walk in his ways, and they have not hearkened to his law. So he shall pour out the fury of his anger on him, and the strength of the battle, and it shall set him aflame round about, yet he will not know, and it shall consume within him, yet he shall not set it to heart. Chapter 43. And now thus says Yahweh, your Creator, Jacob, and your former Israel. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I am with you, and through the streams, they shall not overflow you. When you go through the fire, you shall not be scorched, and the blaze it shall not consume you. For I, Yahweh, am your Elohim, the Holy One of Israel, your Redeemer. I give Egypt as your shelter, Cush and Seba in your stead. Because you are precious in my eyes, you are glorified, and I myself love you. I shall give humanity in your stead, and the folk instead of your soul. Do not fear, for I am with you. From the east I shall bring your seed, and from the west I shall convene you. I shall say to the north, Give, and to the south, Do not close off. Bring my sons from afar, and my daughters from the ends of the earth, everyone who is being called by my name. And for my glory I created him. I formed him, indeed I made him. Bring forth that people blind, yet there are eyes, and deaf, yet they have ears. All the nations are convened together, and the folk are being gathered. Who among them shall tell this and announce to us the former things? Let them give their testimonies and show themselves righteous, and let others hear and say, That is the truth. You are my witnesses, Avering is Yahweh, and my servant whom I have chosen, that you may know and believe me, and you may understand that I am he. Before me no El was formed, and after me none shall come to be. I am Yahweh, and there is no Savior apart from me. I myself tell and save and announce, and there is no alien God among you. And you are my witnesses, Avering is Yahweh, and I am El. Ever since day was, I am he, and there is no rescuing from my hand. I shall effect it, and who shall reverse it? Thus says Yahweh, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. On your account I send to Babylon, and I bring down the bars, all of them, and the Chaldeans in the ships of their jubilant song. I am Yahweh, your Holy One, Creator of Israel, your King. Thus says Yahweh, who is making a way in the sea, and in the strong waters, a track, who is bringing forth chariot and horse, an army and the strong. Together they shall lie down, they shall rise no more. They are extinguished, like a flaxen wick they are quenched. Do not be mindful of the former things, and do not consider those preceding. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it is sprouting. Do you not know it? Indeed, I am placing a way in the wilderness, tracks in the desolation. The animals of the field shall glorify me, wild jackals and ostriches. For I provide water in the wilderness, streams in the desolation, to give drink to my people, my chosen. This people I have formed for myself, and they shall recount my praise. Yet you have not called to me, Jacob, for you have been wearied of me, Israel. You have not brought me the flockling of your ascent offerings, and with your sacrifices you have not glorified me. I have not burdened you with an approach present, nor have I wearied you with frankincense. You have not bought aromatic reed for me with silver, and with the fat of your sacrifices you have not satiated me. Rather you have burdened me with your sins. You have wearied me with your depravities. I am he who wipes out your transgressions on my own account, and your sins I shall not remember further. Remind me, and let us seek judgment together. Recount your case that you may show yourself righteous. Your first father he sinned, and your intermediaries they transgressed against me. So I shall profane the holy chief officials, and I shall give Jacob to doom, and Israel to taunts. Chapter 44. And now hear, Jacob, my servant, and Israel whom I have chosen. Thus says Yahweh, your maker, and your former from the belly, your helper, do not fear, my servant Jacob, and Yeshurun whom I have chosen. For I shall pour water on the thirsty, and floods on the dry ground. I shall pour my spirit on your seed, and my blessing on your offsprings. And they will sprout like grass between waters, like oleanders by runnels of water. This one shall say, I belong to Yahweh, and this one shall call in the name of Jacob, and this one shall write on his hand, belongs to Yahweh, and by the name of Israel he shall entitle himself. Thus says Yahweh, King of Israel, and his Redeemer, Yahweh of hosts. I am the first, and I am the last, and apart from me there is no Elohim. Who is like me? Let him stand and call out and tell it, and let him arrange it for me from the time of my appointing the Eonian people. Both the things arriving and the things that shall come, let them tell those to you. Do not be afraid and do not fear. Have I not from of yore announced to you and foretold? You are my witnesses. Is there any Loa apart from me? There is no other rock, I know none. The formers of a carving, all of them are ineffectual, and their coveted idols bring no benefit. They are their own witnesses. They neither see nor know, so that they may be ashamed. Who would form an L and fabricate a carving to no benefit? Behold all his partners, they shall be ashamed. And the craftsmen, they turn red. Let them convene, all of them. Let them stand up. They shall be afraid. They shall be ashamed together. The craftsman in iron he incises with an adze, and he contrives in the coals. With hammers he shall form it and contrive it with his vigorous arm. Yet when famished, there is no vigor. When he does not drink water, he grows faint. The craftsman in wood, he stretches out a measuring tape. He shall draw it with red ochre. He shall work it with gouges, and with a compass he shall draw it and make it like a model of a man, like the beauty of a human to dwell in a house. He will cut cedars for himself, and he shall take a juniper or an oak, made firm for him among the trees of the wildwood, which the Lord planted in the downpour. It made it grow great. It becomes fuel for a human to consume, and he shall take from them and warm himself. Indeed, he shall ignite it and bake bread. Indeed, he shall make an L and worship. He makes it a carving and shall fall down to it. Half of it he burns in the fire, and on this half he shall eat flesh. He shall roast a roast and be satisfied. Indeed, he shall warm himself and say, Aha, I am warm. I see the firelight. And the remainder of it he makes into an L, his own carving. To it he shall fall down, and he shall worship and pray to it, and say, Rescue me, for you are my L. They do not know, and they are not understanding, for he has plastered their eyes from seeing, their hearts from intelligence. One is not recalling it to his heart, and there is neither knowledge nor understanding enough to say, Half of it I burned in the fire, and indeed I baked bread over its embers. Should I roast flesh and eat and make the rest of it an abhorrence? Should I fall down to a decaying block of wood? Grazing on ashes his heart, it is deluded. It has turned him aside, and he cannot rescue his soul, and he is not saying, Is this not a falsehood in my right hand? Remember these things, Jacob and Israel, for you are my servant. I formed you. A servant unto me are you. Israel, you shall not be consigned to oblivion by me. For behold, I have wiped out your transgressions like a dense haze, and your sins like a cloud. Do return to me, for I have redeemed you. Be jubilant, heavens, for Yahweh has done it. Raise a joyful shout, nether parts of the earth. Burst forth with jubilant song, mountains, wildwood, and every tree in it. For Yahweh has redeemed Jacob, and in Israel he shall show his beauty. Thus says Yahweh, your Redeemer, and your former from the belly. I am Yahweh, maker of all, stretching out the heavens by myself, stamping out the earth, and who was with me? Annulling the signs of deceiving inventors, he is making diviners rave, causing the wise to turn about backward. He is making their knowledge look silly. Confirming the word of his servant, he is performing the counsel of his messengers, who is saying as to Jerusalem, It shall be indwelt, and as to the cities of Judah, they shall be rebuilt, and its deserted places I shall raise them up. Who is saying to the shadowy deep, Be drained. I shall dry up your streams. Who is saying as to Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and all my desire he shall perform, so as to say of Jerusalem, it shall be rebuilt, and the temple, it shall be founded. Chapter 45, Thus says Yahweh to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I hold fast, to hold sway over nations before him, I shall ungird the waists of kings, to open before him double doors, and gates they shall not be closed. I myself shall go before you, and I shall level mountains. I shall break down doors of bronze and hack down bars of iron. I give you treasures of darkness and buried goods of concealment, that you may know that I, Yahweh, calling you by your name, am the Elohim of Israel. On account of my servant Jacob and Israel my chosen, I am calling you by your name. I am entitling you, yet you do not know me. I am Yahweh, and there is no other. Except for me, there is no Elohim. I am forearming you, yet you do not know me, that they may know, from the rising of the sun and from the west, that there is no one apart from me. I am Yahweh, and there is no other. Former of light and creator of darkness, maker of good and creator of evil, I, Yahweh, make all these things. Drip down from above heavens, and let the skies distill righteousness. Let the earth open up, let salvation bud, and let righteousness sprout together with it. I, Yahweh, I create it. Would anyone contend with his former? Earthenware of the ground with its artificer? Shall the clay say to its potter, What are you making? Or your contrivance say, It has no hands? Would anyone say to a father, What are you begetting? Or to a woman, With what are you in travail? Thus says Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, and its former, of the things arriving, ask me. Yet concerning my children and concerning the deeds of my hands shall you instruct me? I myself made the earth, and I created humanity on it. I my hands they stretched out the heavens, and all their hosts have I instructed. I myself rouse him in righteousness, and all his ways I shall make straight. He shall rebuild my city, and my deportees he shall let go, not for a price, and not for a bribe, says Yahweh of hosts. Thus says Yahweh, the labor of Egypt and the merchandise of Cush and the Sabaeans, men of measure, they shall pass over to you, and they shall become yours. They shall walk behind you. They shall pass in manacles. And to you shall they bow down, and to you they shall reverently avow. Only among you is El, and there is no other Elohim. Surely you are El, concealing yourself, O Elohim of Israel, Savior. They are ashamed and also mortified, all of them together, and they walk in mortification, these craftsmen of forms. Israel, he is saved by Yahweh with an Aeonian salvation. You shall not be ashamed nor mortified for future eons. For thus says Yahweh, creator of the heavens. He is the one, Elohim, the former of the earth and its maker. He himself established it. He did not create it a chaos. He formed it to be indwelt. I am Yahweh, and there is no other. Not in concealment have I spoken, in a dark place of the earth. I did not say to the seed of Jacob, Seek me in a chaos. I am Yahweh, speaking righteousness, telling that which is upright. Convene yourselves and come. Come close together, delivered ones of the nations. They do not know, those who carry their wooden carving, and who pray to an El who cannot save. Tell and come close, indeed let them consult together. Who has announced this from aforetime, has told it hitherto? Was it not I, Yahweh? And there is no other Elohim apart from me, a righteous El and a Savior. There is none except me. Turn toward me and be saved, all the limits of the earth. For I am El, and there is no other. By myself have I sworn. From my mouth has gone forth righteousness, a word, and it shall not turn back. For to me shall bow every knee, and every tongue shall swear fealty. Only in Yahweh one will say to me, are righteousness and strength. Unto him shall each one come, and all who were heated against him shall be ashamed. In Yahweh shall they be found righteous, and shall all the seed of Israel boast. Chapter 46, Bel bows down. Nebo stoops. Their fetishes are for animals and for beasts. Things for you to carry, things to be ladened, a load for the faint. They stoop, they bow together. They cannot escape the load, and their soul it goes away into captivity. Hearken to me, house of Jacob, and all the remnant of the house of Israel, who have been laden on me from the belly, and who have been carried from the womb. Even unto old age I am the same, and unto your gray-haired age I myself shall bear the burden. I myself have made, and I myself shall bear. I myself shall bear the burden, and I shall give you escape. To whom shall you liken me or make me equal, or compare me that we should be alike? Those who squander gold from the purse and are weighing out silver on the reed scales, they are hiring a goldsmith that he may make it into an ell, and they fall down. Indeed, they worship. They lift it on their shoulders, they bear its burden, and they settle it in its spot. Then it stands there. It shall not remove itself from its place. Indeed, one shall cry out to it, and it shall not answer. From his distress it shall not save him. Remember this, and be ashamed. Recall it to heart, transgressors. Remember the former things from the eon, for I am El, and there is no other. Elohim, and no other like me, telling from the beginning, the hereafter, and from aforetime, what has not yet been done, saying, all my counsel, it shall be confirmed, and all my desire shall I do. Calling from the sunrise a bird of prey, from a land afar, a man of my counsel, indeed I have spoken, indeed I shall bring it to pass. I have formed the plan, indeed I shall do it. Hearken to me, sturdy of heart, who are far from righteousness. I bring near my righteousness, it shall not be far off, and my salvation it shall not delay. And I will bestow salvation in Zion, for Israel my beauty. Chapter 47, Go down and sit on the soil, virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the earth without a throne, daughter of the Chaldeans. For never again shall they call you tender and delicate. Take millstones and grind meal. Roll back your face veil. Strip off your skirts. Expose the leg. Wade across streams. Exposed shall be your nakedness. Even your reproach shall be seen. I shall take vengeance and shall not intercede for any human, says our Redeemer. Yahweh of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Sit still and enter into darkness, daughter of the Chaldeans, for never again shall they call you mistress of the kingdoms. I was wrathful over my people, and I profaned my allotment, so I gave them into your hand. You did not show them compassions. On the old one you made your yoke exceedingly heavy. Yet you are saying, for the eon I shall be the mistress still. You have not taken these things to heart. You are not mindful of its hereafter. And now hear this, luxuriant one, the one dwelling in serenity, saying in her heart, I and no one else. I shall not sit as a widow, nor shall I know bereavement. Yet these two shall come to you in a moment, in one day, bereavement and widowhood. Suddenly they come on you with your many enchantments, with the plentifulness of your charms exceedingly. You are trusting in your knowledge. You have said, there is no one seeing me. Your wisdom and your knowledge, this has turned you back. And you are saying in your heart, I and no one else. Yet evil will come on you, and you shall not know its dawn, and woe shall fall on you. You shall not be able to find shelter from it. Ruination shall come on you suddenly, and you shall not foreknow it. Stand now among your charms and among your many enchantments, with which you have labored from your youth. Perhaps you shall be able to benefit, perhaps you shall terrify. You have tired yourself with your many counsels. Let them stand now and save you, the astrologers and the stargazers, those who inform by the new moons, from the things that are coming on you. Behold, they become like stubble. Fire, it burns them up. They cannot rescue their soul from the hand of the blaze. This is no ember for warming them, or firelight to sit in front of it. Thus have they become to you, those with whom you have labored. Your merchants from your youth, each has strayed to his own passage. There is no one saving you. Chapter 48. Hear this, house of Jacob, who are called by the name of Israel, and who came forth from the waters of Judah, who swear by the name of Yahweh, and who make mention of the Elohim of Israel, not in truth and not in righteousness. For from the holy city are they called, and by the Elohim of Israel are they supported. Yahweh of hosts is his name. The former things hitherto I foretold, and from my mouth they came forth, and I announced them. Suddenly I did them, and they came to pass. Due to my knowledge that you are obstinate, that an iron sinew is the nape of your neck, and your forehead is bronze, I was also foretelling to you hitherto. Ere it was coming to pass, I announced it to you, lest you should say, my fetish, it did them, and my carving and my molten image determined them. You have heard, perceive it all. Yet are you not telling? I announce to you new things henceforth, unsearchable things, and you have not known them. Now are they created, yet not hitherto. Before their day, you had not heard them, lest you should say, behold, I knew them. Indeed you had not heard, indeed you had not known. Indeed hitherto I did not open your ear. For I knew you are treacherous, yea treacherous, and a transgressor from the belly are you called. On account of my name I shall be long-suffering in my anger, and for my praise I shall repress it toward you, so as not to cut you off. Behold, I refined you, yet not as silver. I tested you in the crucible of humiliation. On my account shall I do it. For how should my name be profaned? And my glory I shall not give to another. Hearken to me, Jacob, and Israel, my called one. I am he, I am the first. Indeed, I am the last. Indeed, my hand, it founded the earth, and my right hand, it measured out the heavens. I am calling to them. They shall stand together. Be gathered together, all of you, and hearken. Who among you has foretold these things? Yahweh, he loves him, he who shall do his desire in Babylon, when his arm is on the Chaldeans. I myself speak. Indeed, I call him. I bring him, and I prosper his way. Come near to me. Hear this. From the beginning I did not speak in concealment. From the time it happened, I was there. And now my Lord Yahweh, he sends me in his spirit. Thus says Yahweh your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am Yahweh your Elohim, who is teaching you to benefit, positioning you in the way you shall go. Oh, that you attended to my instructions. Then your peace should become like a stream, and your righteousness like billows of the sea. Then your seed should become like the sand, and the offsprings of your bowels like its particles. Not cut off nor exterminated should be their name from before me. Come forth from Babylon, hasten away from the Chaldeans. With voice of jubilant song, tell it. Let this be heard. Send it forth unto the ends of the earth. Say, Yahweh has redeemed his servant Jacob, and they were not thirsty in the deserts where he conducted them. He caused water to flow from a rock for them. When he split the rock, water gushed out. There is no peace, says Yahweh, for the wicked. Chapter 49, Hearken to me, coastlands, and attend, folk from afar. Yahweh called me from the belly. From the bowels of my mother he recorded my name. He made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand he hid me. He made me an ideal arrow. In his quiver he concealed me. And he said to me, My servant are you, Israel, in whom I shall show my beauty. And I myself said, I have labored for naught. I have exhausted my vigor for chaos and for vanity. Surely my judgment is with Yahweh, and my wage is with my Elohim. And now thus says Yahweh, who formed me from the belly to be his servant, to restore Jacob to him, and that Israel should be gathered back to him. I shall be glorified in the eyes of Yahweh and my Elohim. He will become my strength. And he is saying to me, It is a slight thing for you to be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the dispersed of Israel. I give you also for a light of the nations, to become my salvation unto the ends of the earth. Thus says Yahweh, the Redeemer of Israel, his Holy One, to the one despised of soul, to the one abhorred by a nation, to the servant of rulers. Kings they shall see, and they will rise, and chiefs, and they shall worship, on account of Yahweh, who is faithful, the Holy One of Israel, who is choosing you. Thus says Yahweh, In a season acceptable I answer you, and in a day of salvation I help you. I shall preserve you and give you for a covenant of the people, to set up the land, to allot the desolated allotments, to say to the prisoners, Go forth, and to those in darkness, Be revealed. On all the mountains shall they graze, and on all the ridges shall be their pasture. They shall not hunger nor thirst, and the parching wind or sun shall not smite them. For he who shows them compassion, he shall lead them, and to founts of water shall he conduct them. I will make all my mountains a way, and my highways, they shall be raised up. Behold, these from afar they shall come, and behold, these from the north and from the sea, and these from the land of the Sinim. Be jubilant, heavens, and exult, earth. Let jubilant song burst forth, mountains, for Yahweh comforts his people, and he is having compassion on his humble ones. Yet Zion is saying, Yahweh has forsaken me, and Yahweh himself has forgotten me. Shall a woman forget her infant, or to have compassion on the son of her belly? Even if these should forget, yet I myself shall not forget you. Behold, I have delineated you on my palms, and your walls are in front of me continually. Your builders will hasten more than those demolishing you, and those who made you a desert shall go forth from you. Lift up your eyes round about and see. All of them, they are convened. They come to you. As I live, Avering is Yahweh. Indeed, with them all you shall clothe yourself as an ornament, and you shall tie them on as a bride does. As for your deserts and your desolate places, and your demolished land, indeed now you shall be constricted with dwellers, yet those who swallowed you up will be far away. Furthermore, the sons of your bereavements shall say in your ears, the place is too constricted for me. Make space for me that I may dwell. And you will say in your heart, who begot these for me? While I was bereaved and left stark, deported and kept away, who brought these up for me? Behold, I remained by myself. Yet these, where then were they? Thus says my Lord Yahweh, behold, I shall lift up my hand to the nations, and to the peoples I shall raise high my banner. And they will bring your sons in their bosom pouch, and your daughters shall be born on their shoulder. Kings will be your foster fathers, and their chief princesses your wet nurses. Nostrils to the earth, they shall bow down to you, and the dust of your feet they shall lick up. Then you will know that I am Yahweh. Those who are expectant in me shall not be ashamed. Can booty be taken away from a master of war? Or would the captive of a terrifier be given escape? For thus says Yahweh, even the captive of a master of war shall be taken away, and the booty of a terrifier shall be given escape. With your contender I myself shall contend, and your sons I myself shall save. I will feed those who are tyrannizing you with their own flesh, and they shall be drunk with their own blood as with new wine. Then all flesh will know that I Yahweh am your Savior and your Redeemer, the sturdy one of Jacob. Chapter 50. Thus says Yahweh, where is this scroll of your mother's divorce with which I sent her away? Or which of my creditors is it to whom I sold you? Behold, for your depravities you were sold, and for your transgressions your mother was sent away. For what reason, when I came, was no one there? Why, when I called, was no one answering? Is my hand too short to ransom? Or is there no vigor in me to rescue? Behold, by my rebuke I shall drain the sea. I shall make streams a wilderness. Their fish shall stink because there is no water, and shall die from thirst. I shall clothe the heavens with somberness, and make sackcloth their covering. My Lord Yahweh, he gives me the tongue of the taught, to know to be timely and word to the faint. He shall arouse morning by morning. He shall arouse my ear to hear like the taught. My Lord Yahweh, he opens my ear. As for me, I do not rebel. I am not turned away backward. My back I give over to smiters, and my cheeks to those who tear at my beard. My face I do not conceal from mortification and spitting. My Lord Yahweh, he shall help me. Therefore I am not mortified. Therefore I set my face like flint, and I know that I shall not be ashamed. Near is my justifier. Who shall contend against me? Let us stand together. Who is the head man of my judgment? Let him come close to me. Behold, my Lord Yahweh, he shall help me. Who is he who shall condemn me? Behold, all of them shall wear out like a cloak. The moth shall devour them. Who among you has fear of Yahweh, hearkening to the voice of his servant? He who walks in darkness, and there is no brightness for him, let him trust in the name of Yahweh and lean on his Elohim. Behold, all of you are kindlers of fire, lighters of firebrands. Walk in the light of your fire, and by the firebrands you have blazed up. From my hand this has come on you. You shall lie down to grief. Chapter 51. Hearken to me, pursuers of righteousness, seekers of Yahweh. Look to the rock from which you were hewn, and to the quarry pit out of which you were picked. Look to Abraham your father, and to Sarah who travailed with you. For he was but one when I called him, yet I blessed him and increased him. For Yahweh comforts Zion, he comforts all her deserted places, and he shall make her wilderness like Eden, and her gorge like the garden of Yahweh. Elation and rejoicing shall be found in her, acclamation in the sound of melody. Attend to me, my people, and, my folk, give ear to me. For a law shall go forth from me, and my judgment for a light of the peoples. In a moment shall I bring my righteousness near. My salvation comes forth like light, and my arms they shall judge the peoples. For me the coastlands shall be expectant, and for my arm they shall wait. Lift up your eyes to the heavens, and look to the earth beneath. For the heavens like smoke, they shall be dissolved away. And the earth like a cloak, it shall wear out, and its dwellers they shall die like a gnat. Yet my salvation, it shall remain for the eon, and my righteousness, it shall not be undone. Hearken to me, knowers of righteousness, a people with my law in their heart. Do not fear the reproach of mortals, and by their taunts do not be dismayed. For the moth shall eat them like a cloak, and the roach shall eat them like wool. Yet my righteousness, it shall remain for the eon, and my salvation for the generation of generations. Rouse, rouse, clothe yourself with strength, arm of Yahweh. Rouse as in former days in past generations of the eons. Are you not it, the hewer of Rahab, the wounder of the monster? Are you not it, the drainer of the sea, the waters of the vast abyss, the placer in the depths of the sea of a way for the redeemed to pass? And the ransomed of Yahweh, they shall return. They will enter Zion with jubilant song, and with Eonian rejoicing on their heads. Elation and rejoicing, they shall overtake them, and affliction and sighing will flee. I am he who is comforting you. Who are you that you are fearing a mortal who is dying, and a son of humanity who is made like grass? You are forgetting Yahweh, your Maker, who is stretching out the heavens and founding the earth. You are afraid continually, the entire day, before the fury of the constrainer as he prepares to ruin. Yet where is the fury of the constrainer? The constricted one will hastily be unloosed, and he shall not die in the pit, nor shall he lack his bread. For I am Yahweh, your Elohim, who splits apart the sea so that its billows clamor. Yahweh of hosts is my name. I shall place my words in your mouth, and in the shadow of my hand I will cover you, planting the heavens and founding the earth, and saying to Zion, my people are you. Rouse yourself, rouse yourself. Arise, Jerusalem. You who have drunk from the hand of Yahweh the cup of his fury, the goblet cup of tremoring you have drunk, you have wrung out. There is no one conducting her of all the sons she has borne, and there is no one holding fast to her hand of all the sons she has brought up. These pairs are happening to you. Who shall condole with you? Devastation and brokenness, and famine and sword. Who shall comfort you? Your sons, they have swooned. They lie at the head of all the streets, like an antelope in a noose. Those are full of Yahweh's fury, the rebuke of your Elohim. Therefore hear this now, humbled one, drunken, yet not from wine. Thus says your Lord Yahweh, and your Elohim, who is contending for his people. Behold, I take from your hand the cup of tremoring, the goblet cup of my fury. You shall not continue to drink it any longer. And I place it in the hand of your afflictors and your humblers who say to your soul, bow down that we may pass over. So you are making your body like the earth, and like a street for those passing over. Chapter 52. Rouse, rouse, put on your strength, Zion. Put on your beautiful clothes, Jerusalem, the holy city. For the uncircumcised and unclean shall not again come into you any longer. Shake yourself from the dust, and arise, captive Jerusalem. Unloose the bonds of your neck, captive daughter of Zion. For thus says Yahweh, gratuitously were you sold, and not with silver shall you be redeemed. For thus says my Lord Yahweh, to Egypt my people descended at first to sojourn there, and Assyria worked them harm for nothing. And now what is for me here, averring is Yahweh, that my people were taken gratuitously. Their rulers they are howling, averring is Yahweh, and continually the entire day my name suffers indignity. Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore in that day they will know that I am he who is speaking. Behold me. How comely on the mountains are the feet of the tidings bearer, who is announcing peace, bearing tidings of good, announcing salvation, saying to Zion, your Elohim reigns. The voice of your watchmen, they lift up their voice. Together they are jubilant, for they shall see eye to eye when Yahweh returns to Zion with compassions. Burst forth, be jubilant together, deserted places of Jerusalem, for Yahweh comforts his people, and he redeems Jerusalem. Yahweh bears his holy arm to the eyes of all the nations, and all the limits of the earth see the salvation of our Elohim. Withdraw, withdraw, go forth from there. Do not touch the unclean. Go forth from her midst. Be pure, you bearers of the vessels of Yahweh. For not in urgent haste shall you go forth, and in flight you shall not go out. For Yahweh is going before you, and the Elohim of Israel is your rear guard. Behold, my servant shall proceed effectively. He shall be exalted and lifted up and very lofty. Just as many were appalled over him, so ruined was his appearance more than any man, and his shape more than sons of Adam. So shall he startle many nations. Over him kings shall shut their mouths, for that which had not been related to them they see, and of that which they had not heard they gain understanding. Chapter 53. Who believes our report? And the arm of Yahweh, to whom is it revealed? He is growing up like a young shoot before him, and like a root sprout out from arid earth. He has no shapeliness nor honor that we should observe him, and no such appearance that we should covet him. He is despised and shunned of men, a man of pains and knowing illness. And, as a concealing of faces from him, he is despised, and we judge him of no account. Surely he himself bears our illnesses and our pains. He is burdened with them. As for us, we account him assaulted, smitten of Elohim, and humbled. Yet he is wounded because of our transgressions, and crushed because of our depravities. The discipline of our well-being is on him, and with his welts comes healing for us. All of us, like a flock, we stray. Each to his own way, we turn around. Yet Yahweh himself causes to come upon him. The depravity of us all. Hard-pressed is he, and he is humbled, yet he is not opening his mouth. Like a flockling to slaughter is he fetched, and as a ewe before her shearers is mute, he is not opening his mouth. From restraint and from judgment he is taken, and on his generation who is meditating? For he is severed from the land of the living. Because of the transgression of my people, he is led to death. And they appoint his tomb with the wicked, with the rich his sepulchre. Although he does no wrong, and no deceit is in his mouth, yet Yahweh, he desires to crush him, and he causes him to be wounded. Should his soul place a guilt offering, he shall see a seed, he shall lengthen days, and the desire of Yahweh, it shall prosper in his hand. From the toil of his soul he shall see light, and he shall be satisfied by his knowledge. My righteous servant shall justify many, and with their depravities he himself shall be burdened. Therefore I shall apportion to him among the many, and with the staunch shall he apportion the spoils, inasmuch as he empties out his soul to death, and with transgressors is he counted. Yet he himself bears the sin of many, and for transgressors shall he make intercession. Chapter 54. Be jubilant, barren one, who has not borne. Burst forth into jubilant song, and make a noise, you who have not been in travail. For more are the sons of the desolate than the sons of her who has the spouse, says Yahweh. Widen the place of your tent, and the sheets of your tabernacle, let them stretch out. Do not keep back. Lengthen your cords, and make fast your pegs. For you shall breach forth to the right and the left, and your seed shall dispossess nations, and they shall settle the desolated cities. Do not fear, for you shall not be shamed. And do not be mortified, for you shall not be abashed. For the shame of your adolescence you shall forget, and the reproach of your widowhood you shall remember no longer. For your possessor is your maker, Yahweh of hosts is his name, and your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel. The Elohim of the entire earth shall he be called. For like a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, Yahweh called you, and a wife of youth when she is rejected, says Yahweh your Elohim. For a small moment I forsook you, yet with great compassions I shall convene you. In effervescent wrath I concealed my face momentarily from you, yet with Aeonian benignity I have compassion on you, says your Redeemer, Yahweh. Like the waters of Noah is this to me, in that I swore the waters of Noah would be kept from passing over the earth again. So I swear not to bring wrath on you further, and not to rebuke you. For the mountains they shall be removed, and the hills they shall slip away. Yet my benignity it shall not be removed from you, and the covenant of my peace it shall not slip away, says he who has compassion on you, Yahweh. Humbled one, tempest-tossed, without comfort. Behold, I am embedding your stones in antimony, and I lay your foundations with sapphires. I make your tower crests of brilliant gems, and your gates of fiery red stones, and all your boundary to be with stones of delight. All your sons are taught of Yahweh, and abundant is the well-being of your sons. In righteousness shall you be established. Be far from threatening, for you shall not fear, and from dismay, for it shall not come near to you. Behold, nobody shall stir up, ye stir up, apart from me. Whoever stirs up against you shall fall because of you. Behold, I myself created the craftsman, who blows into the fire of coals and brings forth an implement for his work. And I myself created the ruiner to harm. Any implement that is formed against you shall not prosper, and any tongue that rises for judgment against you, you shall condemn. This is the allotment of the servants of Yahweh, and their vindication is from me, averring is Yahweh. Chapter 55, Ho, all who are thirsty, go to the water, and he who has no money, go, purchase and eat. Go, purchase food without money and without price, wine and milk. Why should you weigh out money for what is not bread, and give your labor for what gives no satisfaction? Hearken, hearken to me, and eat what is good, and let your soul find pleasure in richness. Stretch out your ear and come to me. Hear, and your soul shall live, and I shall indeed contract with you a covenant Aeonian, the faithful benignities of David. Behold, I make him a witness to the folk, a governor and instructor of the folk. Behold, a nation you do not know you shall call, and a nation where they have not known you. They shall run to you, on account of Yahweh your Elohim and the Holy One of Israel. For he endows you with beauty. Seek after Yahweh while he is to be found. Call him while he comes to be near. Let the wicked one forsake his way, and the lawless man his devisings, and let him return to Yahweh, and he shall have compassion on him, and to our Elohim, for he shall multiply pardon. For my designs are not your designs, and your ways are not my ways, averring is Yahweh. For as the heavens are loftier than the earth, so are my ways loftier than your ways, and my designs than your designs. For just as the downpour descends and the snow from the heavens, yet it does not return there, but rather it soaks the earth and causes it to bear and sprout, and it gives seed to the sower and bread to the eater. So shall my word be that shall go forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but rather it does what I desire and prospers in that for which I sent it. For with rejoicing shall you go forth, and in peace shall you be escorted. The mountains and the hills, they shall burst forth into jubilant song before you. And all the trees of the field, they shall clap their palms. Instead of the thorn tree shall come up the fir, and instead of the nettle shall come up the myrtle, and it will come to be to Yahweh for a name, for a sign Aeonian that shall not be cut off. Chapter 56. Thus says Yahweh, keep right judgment and do righteousness. For near is my salvation to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. Happy is the mortal who is doing this, and the son of humanity who is holding fast in it, keeping the Sabbath without profaning it, and keeping his hand from doing any evil. Let not the son of the foreigner say, the proselyte who has joined himself to Yahweh, saying, Yahweh shall separate, yea, separate me from his people. And let not the eunuch say, behold, I am a dry tree. For thus says Yahweh, to the eunuchs who are keeping my Sabbaths, and who choose that in which I delight, and are holding fast to my covenant, I will give to them, in my house and within my walls, hand and name. Better than sons and daughters I shall give to them a name Aeonian, which shall not be cut off. As for the sons of the foreigner, the proselyte who has joined himself to Yahweh, to minister to him, and to love the name of Yahweh, to become his servants, everyone keeping the Sabbath, from profaning it and holding fast to my covenant. I will bring them also to my holy mountain and make them rejoice in my house of prayer. Their ascent offerings and their sacrifices they shall offer up for acceptance on my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. Averring is my Lord Yahweh, convener of the expelled of Israel. I shall convene more to him besides those being convened to him. Every wild animal of the field arrived to devour, every wild animal in the wildwood. His watchmen are blind, all of them. They do not know. All of them are mute curs that cannot bark, dozing, lying down, loving to slumber. And the curs are voracious of soul. They do not know satisfaction. As for these who are shepherds, they do not know understanding. All of them, they face their own way, each for his own gain from its outmost part. Come hither, let me take wine, and let us carouse with intoxicant, and tomorrow will be like this day, greater, excelling exceedingly. Chapter 57, the righteous one, he perishes, and there is no man laying it on his heart, and men of benignity are being swept up, while there is no considering that because of the evil the righteous one is swept up. Yet he shall enter into peace, and they shall rest on their beds, each one walking in the correct way before him. As for you, come near hither, sons of depravity, seed of an adulterer and a prostitute. Against whom are you making pleasure? At whom are you widening the mouth, sticking out the tongue? Are you not children of transgression, seed of falsehood? You who are warmed among the oaks, under every flourishing tree, slayers of children in the wadis, under the overhangs of the crags. Among the smooth stones of the wadi is your portion. They are your lot. Also to them you pour out libations. You offer up an approach present. Should I be consoled over these? On a mountain lofty and lifted up, you place your bed. There also you ascend to sacrifice a sacrifice. And behind the door in the jam you place your memorial. Then you part yourself from me and are ascending. You widen your bed, and you are making your contract with them. You love their bed, a hand you perceive. You are conveying oil to the king, and are increasing your compounds. You are sending your agents far off, and are making them condescend unto the unseen. By the greatness of your way you are wearied, yet you do not say, I despair. You find a revival of your hand. Therefore you do not beseech me. Of whom are you anxious and are fearing, that you should lie to me, and do not remember me, and do not lay it on your heart? Have I not hushed even from the eon? Yet you are not fearing me. I myself shall tell of your kind of righteousness and your deeds, yet they shall not benefit you. When you cry out, let your accumulation of idols rescue you. The wind shall carry them all away. A transitory breath shall take them. Yet he who takes refuge in me, he shall be allotted land, and he shall enjoy tenancy in my holy mountain. And he says, heap up the highway, surface the way, heave the stumbling block from the way of my people. For thus says the one high and lifted up, who tabernacles the future, and holy is his name. In the high and holy place am I tabernacling, and also with one crushed and lowly of spirit, to revive the spirit of the lowly, and to revive the heart of the crushed. Indeed, I shall not contend for the eon, nor shall I be permanently wrathful. For the spirit it would droop before me, and the breast that I myself have made. Because of the depravity, for a moment I was wrathful, and I was smiting him, concealing my face when I was wrathful. And he was going on backsliding in the way of his heart. I have seen his ways, yet I shall heal him and guide him, and I shall dispense comforts to him and to his mourners, creating the produce of the lips. Peace, peace to the far and to the near, says Yahweh, and I will heal him. Yet the wicked are like the disgorging sea when it cannot be quiet, and its waters are disgorging foulness and mud. There is no peace, says my Elohim, for the wicked. Chapter 58, call out with full throat. Do not keep back. Like a trumpet, raise high your voice, and tell to my people their transgression, and to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet day by day they are inquiring for me, and are delighting in the knowledge of my ways. Like a nation that does righteousness and forsakes not the judgment of its Elohim, They are asking me for righteous judgments. They are delighting in the nearness of their Elohim. Why do we fast, yet you do not see? Why do we humble our souls, yet you are not knowing? Behold, in the day of your fast you are finding delight. In all your grievous labors you are exacting on others. Behold, for contention and strife are you fasting, and to smite with the fist of wickedness. You shall not fast as today to make your voice heard in the height. Is it like this, the fast that I am choosing, a day for a man to humble his soul, to bend his head like a rush, and when he shall make sackcloth and ashes his birth? Is this what you are calling a fast and a day acceptable to Yahweh? Is not this the fast that I am choosing, to unloose the hindrances of wickedness, to let loose the harnessings of the yoke bar, and to let the maltreated go free? You shall pull away every yoke bar. Is it not to break your bread unto the famishing, and that the humble, the homeless, you shall bring home? When you see the naked, that you cover him with a cloak, and you do not obscure yourself from your own flesh? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your wholeness, it shall sprout quickly, and your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of Yahweh shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and Yahweh, he shall answer. You shall implore, and he shall say, Behold me. If you should take away the yoke bar from your midst, the pointing of the finger and the speaking of lawlessness, and you should issue the bread of your soul to the famishing, and should satisfy the soul of the humbled one, then your light will be radiant in the darkness, and your gloom shall be as the noonday sun. Yahweh will guide you continually, and he will satisfy your soul in sun-glaring places. He shall invigorate your bones, and you will become like a well-watered garden and like a flowing well of water whose waters are not defaulting. And the places deserted for the eon will be rebuilt by you. The foundations of generation after generation you shall raise again, and you will be called wall builder of the breach, restorer of access ways for dwelling. If you turn back your foot from travel on the Sabbath, from doing your own desires on my holy day, and you call the Sabbath a rich delight, the holy day of Yahweh, glorious, and you glorify it rather than doing your own ways, rather than finding your own desire or speaking your own word, then you shall find pleasure in Yahweh, and I will cause you to ride on the high places of the land, and feed you from the allotment of Jacob, your father, for the mouth of Yahweh it has spoken. Chapter 59. Behold, the hand of Yahweh is not too short to save, and his ear is not too heavy to hear, but rather your depravities, they have become separators between you and your Elohim, and your sins, they conceal his face from you, from hearing you. For your palms they are sullied with blood, and your fingers with depravity. Your lips speak falsehood, your tongue, it is mumbling iniquity. There is no one calling for righteousness, and there is no one seeking judgment with faithfulness, trusting in chaos and speaking futility, engendering misery and begetting lawlessness. They hatch vipers' eggs, and they are weaving spider webs. Whoever eats of their eggs shall die, and that pressed down on shall hatch into a puff adder. Their webs shall not become a cloak, and they shall not cover themselves with their works. Their works are works of lawlessness, and the contriving of violence is in their palms. Their feet are running to evil, and they are hastening to shed innocent blood. Their devisings are devisings of lawlessness. Devastation and brokenness are in their highways. The way of peace they do not know, and there is no right judgment in their rounds. They have made their tracks perverted for themselves. Anyone treading in them knows no peace. Therefore right judgment is far from us, and justice is not overtaking us. We are expecting light, and behold darkness. Brightness, yet we are walking in gloom. We are fumbling like the blind along a sidewall, and like those without eyes we are fumbling. We stumble at noon as in the twilight. Among the stout, we are like the dead. We are clamoring like bears all of us, and like doves we are mumbling, yea, mumbling. We are expecting right judgment, and there is none. Salvation, yet it is far from us. For our transgressions are multitudinous in front of you, and our sins answer against us. For our transgressions are with us, and our depravities we know them. Transgression and dissimulation against Yahweh, and turning away from following our Elohim, speaking perversity and defection, engendering and mumbling words of falsehood from the heart. So right judgment is turned away backward, and justice is standing far off. For truth stumbles in the square, and what is correct cannot enter. So it is that truth is lacking, and he who withdraws from evil gets himself looted. Yet Yahweh is seeing, and it is evil in his eyes, for there is no right judgment. And he is seeing that there is no man. Indeed, he is appalled that there is no intercessor. Yet his own arm shall save for him, and his own righteousness, it will support him. He shall put on righteousness as a body armor, and the helmet of salvation on his head. He shall put on garments of vengeance for clothing, and shall muffle himself with jealousy as a robe. According to their dealings, so shall he repay. Fury to his foes, requital to his enemies. He shall repay to the coastlands their requital. And they from the west shall fear the name of Yahweh, and from the rising of the sun, his glory. For the foe shall come like a stream, the spirit of Yahweh, it will make him flee. Then there will come to Zion the Redeemer, and he shall turn back transgression from Jacob, evering as Yahweh. As for me, this is my covenant with them, says Yahweh. My spirit which is on you, and my words which I place in your mouth, they shall not be removed from your mouth, or from the mouth of your seed, or from the mouth of your seed's seed, says Yahweh, henceforth and for the eon. Chapter 60. Arise, become resplendent, for your light has come, and the glory of Yahweh, it is radiant upon you. For behold, the darkness, it shall cover the earth, and murkiness the folk, yet Yahweh shall be radiant upon you, and his glory it shall be seen over you. And nations will go to your light, and kings to the brightness of your radiance. Lift up your eyes round about, and see. They all are convened, they come to you. Your sons shall come from afar, and your daughters shall be faithfully carried upon the side. Then you shall see and will beam, and your heart will be in awe and will broaden, for the superabundance of the sea shall be turned to you. The estate of the nations shall come to you. A great concourse of camels shall cover you. Young camels of Midian and Ephah, all of them shall come from Sheba. They shall carry gold and frankincense, and shall gladly declare the praises of Yahweh. All the flocks of Kedar shall be convened to you. The rams of Nebaioth shall minister to you. They shall ascend with acceptance on my altar, when I shall beautify my house of prayer. Who are these who are flying like a thick cloud, and like doves to their crevices? For the coastlands wait in expectation for me, and the ships of Tarshish among the first, to bring your sons from afar, their silver and their gold with them, for the name of Yahweh your Elohim, and for the Holy One of Israel, because he beautifies you. Sons of foreigners will rebuild your walls, and their kings shall minister to you. For in my wrath I smote you, yet in my benevolence I have compassion on you. Your gates will be open continually. Daytime and night they shall not be closed, to bring to you the estate of the nations, with their kings leading them. For the nation and the kingdom that shall not serve you shall perish, and those nations shall be wasted, yea, wasted. The glory of Lebanon shall come to you, the fir, elm, and box tree together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary, when I shall glorify the place of my feet. So they come to you, bowing down, all the sons of those who humiliated you, and they bow down at the soles of your feet, all those who spurned you, and they call you, city of Yahweh, Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Where you had become forsaken and hated, and there was no one helping, I will make you a pride Eonian, an elation of generation after generation. When you will suckle the milk of nations, and shall suckle the breast of kingdoms, then you will know that I, Yahweh, am your Savior, and your Redeemer is the sturdy one of Jacob. Instead of the copper, I shall bring gold, and instead of the iron, I shall bring silver. Instead of the wood, copper, and instead of the stones, iron. And I will establish peace as your supervisor, and righteousness as your taskmasters. No longer shall violence be heard in your land, devastation and brokenness within your boundaries. But you will call your walls salvation, and your gates praise. No longer shall the sun be your light by day, nor shall the moon give light for brightness for you by night, but Yahweh will become your light Eonian, and your Elohim your beauty. No longer shall your sun set, nor your moon be gathered in, for Yahweh, he shall become your light Eonian, and your days of mourning will be finished up, and your people, all of them, shall be righteous. For the eon they shall tenant the land, the scion of Yahweh's planting, the work of his hands to show his beauty. The smallest shall become 1,000, and the inferior a staunch nation. I, Yahweh, I shall hurry it forth in its era. Chapter 61. The Spirit of my Lord Yahweh is on me, because Yahweh anoints me to bear tidings to the humble. He sends me to bind up the broken of heart, to herald to captives liberty, and to the sightless unclosed eyes, and to the bound emancipation, to herald an acceptable year for Yahweh, and a day of vengeance for our Elohim, to comfort all mourners, to establish rejoicing for Zion's mourners, to give them beauty instead of ashes, the oil of elation instead of mourning, the muffler of praise instead of a spirit of languor, and they will be called arbiters of righteousness, the planting of Yahweh to show his beauty, and they will rebuild the places deserted for an eon. The desolations of former times they shall raise up, and they will renew the wasted cities, the desolations of generation after generation. Aliens will stand and graze your flocks, and sons of foreigners will be your farm workers and your vineyardists. Yet you shall be called priests of Yahweh, ministers of our Elohim, it shall be said of you. The estate of nations you shall eat, and in their glory you shall vaunt. Instead of your shame, a double portion, and for mortification they shall be jubilant in their portion. Therefore they shall tenant a double portion in their land, and rejoicing Eonian shall become theirs. For I, Yahweh, am loving right judgment, and am hating pillage by iniquity. So I will give their wage in truth, and I shall contract a covenant Eonian with them. Their seed will be known among the nations, and their offspring in the midst of the peoples. All who see them shall recognize them, that they are the seed whom Yahweh has blessed. I shall be elated, yea, elated in Yahweh. My soul shall exult in my Elohim, for he clothes me with garments of salvation. In a robe of righteousness he muffles me, like a bridegroom who adorns with priestly beauty, and like a bride who ornaments herself with her jewels. For as the earth is bringing forth her sprouts, and as the garden is making its sowing sprout, so my Lord Yahweh shall make righteousness sprout, and praise in front of all the nations. Chapter 62. On Zion's account I shall not hush, and on Jerusalem's account I shall not be quiet, until its righteousness shall come forth like a bright light, and its salvation shall blaze forth like a torch. Nations will see your righteousness, and all kings your glory, and you will be called by a new name, which the mouth of Yahweh shall specify. You will become a crown of beauty in the hand of Yahweh, and a turban of royalty in the palm of your Elohim. It shall no longer be said of you forsaken, and of your land it shall no longer be said desolation. For you shall be called Hephzibah, and your land Beulah. For Yahweh delights in you, and your land shall be espoused. For as a choice youth espouses a virgin, your son shall espouse you, and with the elation of a bridegroom over the bride, your Elohim shall be elated over you. On your walls, Jerusalem, I appoint those keeping watch. All the day and all the night, continually they shall not be inactive. You who remind Yahweh, there must not be stillness for you. Do not give him stillness until he makes ready, and until he establishes, and until he constitutes Jerusalem a praise in the earth. Yahweh has sworn with his right hand, and with the arm of his strength, I shall assuredly not give your grain again as food for your enemies, and sons of foreigners shall assuredly not drink your grape juice for which you have labored. For those who gather it shall eat it and shall praise the name of Yahweh, and those who gather it together shall drink it in the courts of my holiness. Pass through the gates, surface the way of the people. Heap up the highway, clear away the stones, raise high the banner over the peoples. Behold, Yahweh announces it to the outmost part of the earth. Say to the daughter of Zion, behold, your Savior is coming. Behold, his reward is with him, and his wage is before him. And they will call them, the people of holiness, the redeemed of Yahweh, and you shall be called, sought after, city not forsaken. Chapter 63. Who is this coming from humanity, with wine-dyed garments from the vintage? This is one effulgent in his clothing, marching in his great vigor. It is I, speaking in righteousness, abundant to save. For what reason is there red on your clothing? And your garments are like those of one treading in a wine trough? The winepress I have trod by myself, and from the peoples there was no man with me. I tread them in my anger, and tramp them down in my fury, and their lifeblood spatters on my garments, and all my clothing I have sullied. For the day of vengeance came on them, and the year of my redeemed has come. When I look, there is no helper. When I am appalled, there is no supporter. Yet my own arm is saving for me, and my own fury, it supports me. And I trample peoples in my anger, and make them drunk in my fury, and I bring down to the earth their lifeblood. The beninnities of Yahweh I shall bring to remembrance, the praises of Yahweh, according to all that Yahweh has dealt out to us, and the vast good to the house of Israel that he has dealt out to them, according to his compassions, and according to his many benignities. Then he is saying, surely they are my people, sons who are not dealing falsely. So he becomes their savior. In all their distress it was not an agent or a messenger, but his presence saved them. In his love and in his sparing, he himself redeems them, and he lifts them up and carries them all the days of the eon. Yet they rebelled and grieved his Holy Spirit, so that he was turned to be their enemy, and he himself fought against them. Yet he remembers the days of the eon, of Moses and his people. Where is he who brought them up from the sea with the shepherd of his flock? Where is he who placed among them his Holy Spirit, who conducted them by the right hand of Moses, his beauteous arm rending the water before them, to make for him a name Eonian, who conducted them in the abyss, that like a horse in the wilderness they should not stumble, that like a domestic beast which is descending into a valley, the Spirit of Yahweh should give them rest. Thus you led your people to make for yourself a name of beauty. Look from the heavens and see from your holy and your beauteous residence. Where is your zeal and your grand mastery? Where is the consonance of your internal yearning and your compassions, which have checked themselves toward me? For you are our Father. For Abraham he did not know us, and Israel he does not recognize us. You are Yahweh our Father, our Redeemer. From the eon is your name. Why, O Yahweh, are you leading us astray from your ways, and are making our heart indurate to the fear of you? Turn back on account of your servants, the tribes of your allotment. Why do the wicked march in your holy place? Our foes trample your sanctuary. We become like those from the eon. You did not rule among them, neither was your name called over them. Chapter 64. Oh, that you would tear the heavens, that you would descend. The mountains would flow because of your presence. Like ice that fire makes into meltings, like water that fire is boiling up, to make known your name to your foes. The nations shall be disturbed because of your presence. When you did fearful things that we were not expecting, you descended. The mountains flowed because of your presence. From the eon they have not heard, they have not given ear. Eye has not seen any Elohim except you, he who is doing deeds for him who is tearing for him. Oh, that you would come upon one who is elated and one doing righteousness, those who are remembering you in your ways. Behold, you yourself are wrathful, and we are sinning. Against you from the eon, we are transgressing. We are becoming like the unclean, all of us, and all our righteousness like an ornamented cloak. We are decaying like a leaf, all of us, and our depravities, like the wind, are carrying us away. There is no one calling on your name, rousing himself to hold fast to you. For you conceal your face from us, and you are giving us up into the hand of our depravities. Yet now, O Yahweh, you are our Father. We are the clay, and you are our former, and the work of your hand are we all. Do not be wrathful, O Yahweh, to excess, and do not remember depravity for the future. Behold, look, we pray, your people are we all. The cities of your holiness come to be a wilderness. Zion comes to be a wilderness. Jerusalem a desolation. The house of our holiness and our beauty, where our fathers praised you, comes to be burned with fire, and all our coveted places come to be a waste. Concerning these shall you check yourself, O Yahweh? Shall you hush and humble us to excess? Chapter 65. I let myself be inquired of by those who did not ask for me. I am found by those who did not seek me. I say, behold me, to a nation that has not called on my name. I spread out my hands the whole day to a stubborn and rebellious people who are walking in the way that is not good after their own devisings, the people who are provoking me to vexation to my face continually, who are sacrificing in the gardens and fuming incense on the bricks, who are sitting among the tombs and among the rocks are they lodging all night, who are eating the flesh of swine, and the broth of vile things is in their vessels, who are saying, keep near to yourself. You must not come close to me, for I am holy to you. These are a smoke in my nostrils, a fire that is glowing all the day. Behold, it is written before me, I shall not hush, save I repay. And I will repay into their bosom your depravities, and the depravities of your fathers together, says Yahweh. Because they fume incense on the mountains, and on the hills they reproach me, and I will measure their wage in full value into their bosom. Thus says Yahweh, as when grape juice is found in the cluster, and one says, do not ruin it, for a blessing is in it, so shall I do on account of my servants, so as not to ruin the whole. I will bring forth from Jacob a seed, and from Judah one who tenants my mountains, and my chosen will enjoy its tenancy, and my servants shall tabernacle there. Sharon will become a homestead for flocks, and the vale of Achor a reclining place for herds, for my people who have sought after me. As for you who are forsaking Yahweh, who are forgetting my holy mountain, who are arranging a table for Gad, and who are filling a blending bowl for many, I assign you to the sword, and all of you shall bow down for the slaughter, because I called, yet you did not answer. I spoke, yet you did not hearken, and you are doing evil in my eyes, and you choose that in which I take no delight. Therefore thus says my Lord Yahweh, behold my servants, they shall eat, yet you shall famish. Behold my servants, they shall drink, yet you shall thirst. Behold my servants, they shall rejoice, yet you shall be ashamed. Behold my servants, they shall be jubilant from a good heart, yet you shall cry from pain of heart, and from brokenness of spirit shall you howl. And you will leave your name for an oath to my chosen, and my Lord Yahweh will put you to death. Yet his servants he shall call by another name. He who is blessing himself in the land, he shall bless himself by the Elohim of truth. And he who is swearing in the land, he shall swear by the Elohim of truth. For the former distresses are forgotten, and indeed they are concealed from my eyes. For behold me creating new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor shall they come up on the heart, but rather be elated and exult in the futures of the future, which I shall be creating. For behold me creating Jerusalem an exultation, and her people an elation. I exult in Jerusalem, and I am elated in my people. And the sound of lamentation shall not be heard in her any longer, or the sound of outcry. No longer shall there be thence an infant of few days, or an old man who shall not fill his days. For a youth shall die at 100 years old, and he who misses 100 years old shall be lightly esteemed. They will build houses and dwell in them, and they will plant vineyards and eat their fruit. They shall not build and another dwell there. They shall not plant and another eat. For like the days of the tree of life will be the days of my people, and the work of their hands shall my chosen use to the full. They shall not labor for naught, nor shall they give birth in vain, for the seed of Yahweh's blessed are they, and their offspring with them. And it will be that ere they are calling, I myself shall answer. While they are still speaking, I myself shall hearken. The wolf and the lambkin shall graze alike, and the lion shall eat crushed straw like the ox, and the serpent shall have soil as its bread. They shall not do evil, nor shall they bring ruin in all my holy mountain, says Yahweh. Chapter 66, thus says Yahweh, the heavens are my throne, and the earth my footstool. Where then is the house that you shall build for me? And where then is the place of my rest? Yet all of these my hand has made, and all these are mine, averring is Yahweh. Yet to this one I shall look, to the humble and smitten spirit, and one trembling at my word. Yet the corrupter who is slaying a bull is like one smiting a man, who is sacrificing a flockling is like one breaking the neck of a cur, who is bringing up an approach present, it is like swine's blood, who is making a memorial of frankincense is like one blessing lawlessness, even as they choose their own ways, and in their abominations their soul delights. So I shall choose their wanton practices against them, and I shall bring to them their shrinking fears. because I called, yet there was no one answering. I spoke, yet they did not hearken. And they are doing evil in my eyes, and that in which I take no delight they choose. Hear the word of Yahweh, you who are trembling at his word. They say, your brothers who are hating you, those who are isolating you on account of my name. May Yahweh be glorified, and may he be seen in your rejoicing. Yet they themselves shall be ashamed. A sound of tumult from the city, a sound from the temple, a sound of Yahweh paying requital to his enemies. Ere she is travailing, she gives birth. Ere a cramp is coming upon her, she delivers forth a male. Who has heard such a thing as this? And who has seen such things as these? Shall a land be in travail in one day only? Should a nation be born at one time? When she travails, already Zion gives birth to her sons. Shall I bring the breaking and not bring the birth? Saying as Yahweh, if I am the one bringing the birth, would I restrain it? Says your Elohim. Rejoice with Jerusalem and exult in her, all who love her. Be elated with her with elation, all who mourn over her. That you may suckle and be satisfied from the breast of her consolations, that you may drink deeply and find pleasure from the rich bosom of her glory. For thus says Yahweh, behold, I shall stretch out peace over her like a stream, and the glory of the nations like a watercourse overflowing. And you will suckle, you shall be carried on her side, and shall be dandled on her knees. Like one whom his mother is comforting, so I myself shall comfort you. And in Jerusalem you shall be comforted. You will see, and your heart will be elated, and your bones, like verdure, shall they bud. And the hand of Yahweh for his servants will be known, yet it will menace his enemies. For behold, Yahweh, with fire shall he come, and his chariots like a sweeping whirlwind, to bring back his anger with fury, and his rebuke with blazes of fire. For with fire Yahweh shall come to judge, and with his sword upon all flesh. And Yahweh's slain will be multitudinous. Those who sanctify themselves and who cleanse themselves for the gardens, going after one in their midst, eating the flesh of swine, and the abominable thing and the rodent. They shall be swept up together, averring as Yahweh. I know their deeds and their devisings. I shall come to convene all nations and tongues, and they will come and see my glory. I will place a sign among them, and I will send some of their delivered ones to the nations, to Tarshish, Pul and Lud, Meshech, Quesheth, Tubal and Javan, the coastlands afar, who have not heard of my fame and have not seen my glory, and they will tell of my glory among the nations. And they will bring all your brothers from all the nations as an approach present to Yahweh, on horses, in chariots, and in coaches, on mules and on dromedaries, to my holy mountain, Jerusalem, says Yahweh. Just as the sons of Israel bring the approach present in a clean vessel to the house of Yahweh. And also I shall take some from them for priests and for Levites, says Yahweh. For just as the new heavens and the new earth which I shall make shall stand before me, averring as Yahweh, so your seed and your name shall stand. And it will come to be, as often as the new moon comes in its monthly time, and as often as the Sabbath comes in its Sabbath cycle, all flesh shall come to worship before me, says Yahweh. And they will go forth and see the corpses of the mortals who transgressed against me. For their worm shall not die, and their fire shall not be quenched, and they will become a repulsion to all flesh,